BoxBox Hub is an absolute essential for any Formula One fan, and the entire app with new widgets, statistics, localized race schedules, and countdowns, you name it. They even have support for Apple's new live activities feature with real-time updates during a race right on the lock screen, and honestly, some of the best looking widgets I've seen.
Hello everybody, we are back for the 100% League and we are in Qatar. So welcome along then to the qualifying. I thought we were going to say the race then. We've got 57 laps here tonight then of the Losail circuit then, and we are ready to get going here in Qatar then for our the restart really after our lovely break week then earlier on last week. Then of course Japan preceded the break week. I can't remember anything about Japan then from the 100% league. I'm very sorry. I'm pretty sure Gordo extended his championship lead then in the McLaren then, but we'll have to recount that then and go back to the standings then in the server. So there you go. But welcome then to Qatar. We have got ourselves underway. 16 minutes left of the qualifying before we get ourselves into the Grand Prix itself. And looking forward to seeing how it's going to unfold then. Good evening from Rocket Lisa then, and good luck to all the drivers then. Moving to said good evening as well. Good luck to everybody as well. And evening to Rocket as well. Justify says good luck to the drivers tonight, especially Ultra as well. So supporting Ultra, of course, who's reserving in the Alfa Romeo tonight then, is VT10 Ultra. Had a good debut then in gold on Sunday then here in Japan that was, but we're now in Qatar then, one round ahead of course the rest of the divisions. Oh dear. Don't beat yourself up about yesterday. I told you the podium isn't far away, and Rocket Lisa I think is the driver then he is supporting, and of course Rocket Lisa did a good job in Japan last night for bronze, and he has got himself up into the top 10 very comfortably indeed as well. So looking forward to seeing what he can do for the rest of the season. Of course only 5 rounds remaining then for the main divisions then, only 4 rounds remaining after this one. It's only 3 rounds remaining, sorry, for after this one then for the 100% league. So we are sprinting through the season very quickly indeed, then getting to the checkered flag of the 17 rounds then for bronze, silver and gold, and of course 15 rounds here in the 100% league. A shorter season then for the 100% league, and we are on round 12 then of 15, and here comes Hassel, who is reserving tonight in place of Jinner. Then I'm not quite sure where Jinner is because he didn't show up then to the party or to the race that is. But Hassel then has stepped in his place. Then let's see what the Mercedes driver can do then in this one. Then up to the line. Then it's a 22.616 sorry, to get us underway here in Qatar. Good stuff indeed. Then, and welcome to the stream everybody as well. Then good luck to Gordo as well in Rocket Lizo's comment. Then bonjour says Gordo in the comment section as well. And here comes Sika Smuckman in the Aston Martin up to the line. Then it's a 23.1 then for the Aston Martin, and that's him on the board for the first run in qualifying. Kamara racing them with 22.4 into the pole position as it stands. Then 3 drivers to set the time. Kamara racing looking good in qualifying as he usually does. Then can he turn it around then this time in the Grand Prix itself? Then VT10 is up to 27.6. I'm not quite sure if that's his preferred pace or his best pace. He's on the intermediate compound tyres. That would suggest why, because he is not going to be very competitive then around this circuit, which looks pretty dry indeed on those intermediate compound tyres. Martin's off the circuit, then he is invalidated this time. There's a Mercedes going through, I think, of that's Hassel then on his in lap. Then Martin is going through all the brake marking boards, so that's fantastic. So we'll skip off of that, get rid of that. But there we go then. Vessia then is saving fuel already then, so it's a fuel burning circuit then. If you haven't heard in the Discord already and you're racing, you might want to put a bit of extra fuel on board. In fact, I think most of the drivers then are putting a full tank of fuel, completely full tank, or maximum fuel I should say then, in the cars then for the race. That is not for the qualifying, because you want to be as light as possible then for the qualifying, but not so much in the race. You want to get to the end of the race with enough fuel in the car. Markey in the Williams tonight, then reserving in place of X-Gamer, is coming through into the final turn then to send himself on the timing sheets then for the first time, for his first time I should say then in qualifying here tonight. Then up to the line then for the Williams car. Let's see what he can do then. It's going to be a 22.5, then puts himself P2 onto the front row behind Kamara Racer by a 1/10 of a second. Good stuff indeed. R2B's done 22.8, then puts himself P4 on the second row of the grid. As it stands, Martin is going back out again then to start off another lap then in the Ferrari, then going purple in sector 1, looking promising stuff indeed. And here comes Gordo, the championship leader, and he's on a set of medium compound tyres I think there, unless that's just me. I'm not quite sure if that's me or not, but it looks like it's medium. It's hard compound tyres for Gordo, so that is maybe he thinks those soft compound tyres aren't going to last a qualifying lap around here, so it is a bit of a tyre wearing circuit then, but I'm not quite sure the McLaren has got the strategy right there, unfortunately. invalidate the second to last corner since Vessia, then that is why he has not got a time on the board just yet then, but there's still 12 minutes left of the qualifying session here in Qatar, or Losail I should say. I'm not quite sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but that is how I read it and that is how I'm pronouncing it, but I'm probably wrong. But there you go then, it's not the first time, it won't be the last time, and that is that. So there we go, Gorda then into sector 2, then he's on the hard compound tyres like we were saying. Not quite sure that is the best qualifying strategy, but we'll have to wait and see what time he does it on the board then. Yellow flags then of a Williams there, just getting out of the way then of his teammate and of the McLaren coming through then into the final corner now. Let's see what Gordo can do then. Where will he be in terms of his best time then? Kaido up into P5 at 22.9 then for the other Alpine driver. Both the Alpines looking strong here in the opening stages of qualifying. Here comes Gordo up to a 22.9 as well then on the hard compound tyres. That is pretty good stuff indeed in the McLaren, although everybody else I think is on the soft compound ahead of him. So that is that then. In fact, we've got an intermediate time, a hard compound time, everybody else on the soft. So we'll go back to what tyre they're on right now, then 24.7 then for Martin. Of course, he abandoned his first run, invalidating then coming through sector 2. So he has gone again then and might have run out of the RS then towards the end of that second lap as well. And that's why his time not so competitive as it stands. Then Moomin is back out on track then to start off his another lap. Then Kiki is flying through. Then Kiki, one of the best hitters then in qualifying then, especially in bronze, but he's had some dismal luck then in the races as well, and same for 100% as well, where he's had some fantastic pole positions then, but of course it needs to convert then in the race then, and he's had a bit of up and down then in terms of the race results, and a couple of wins, a couple of podiums and a couple of DNFs to go with it as well. So he needs to try and turn that DNF into the big points. Then he needs to try and get some up the standings as well then into the final couple of quarters. Then let's see what the Mercedes driver can do. Can he get himself ahead of his teammate then in terms of a 22.6? Let's see what Kiki can do then. DRS activated up to the line. Let's see if the Mercedes can get himself onto pole position then, up to the line then for Kiki, and it is pole position then with 21.8 then, the first driver into the 21s then by 0.6 of a second ahead of Kamara Racer in P2. That's a fantastic lap time indeed then from Kiki. Fantastic indeed then for Mercedes, and looking strong indeed here in Qatar as it stands as well. Then Gordo down to P7 then. We've got I thought we had somebody else jumping up the order then. Indigo's done 24.4 into P10 then, of course reserving in place of New Zealand Camden, who unfortunately had to jump into work, I think it was, and Lucas Percy is has taken Sam Green has taken the place of Lucas Percy here tonight as well. Then both of them, I think, both the Avatari full-time drivers, I think, in their work attire then, and hopefully they will be slaving away then to get themselves back onto the grid then next week. But there we go, moving up to 2P5. Yellow flags. I think it's just a Haas coming round the circuit then to get himself out of the way. Sam B. Green then is getting a tow then, I think, then from a distant tow then from an Aston Martin, I think it is, down towards the start finish straight, then up to the line. Then it's a 22.6 then for Sam B. Green, then P5 as it stands then. So good stuff, first time on the board then for Sam B. Green, and he is into the top 5 as it stands as well. Then VT10 Ultra is back out on circuit then. He's on a set of soft compound tyres, I think, this time, so he's decided to abandon the intermediates and get himself onto a set of soft compounds. Farf is coming back to the pit lane, so Farf not being able to get a time together on this occasion. Then Vessia as well, trying to get a valid lap on the board as well this time, because unfortunately as we saw in the comments section, unfortunately he abandoned his last time and validated his last time then at the second to last corner. Let's see what the McLaren driver can do this time. What we got then? We've got Vintage then in the comment section with a lovely little super chat then with the dancing emoji as well. £3 super chat from Vintage then. A star stream watcher. I think we did pick up a nickname for Vintage. I keep forgetting it, but he has done a fantastic job then as Vintage of supporting the streams. And of course, anything that you do donate to ALR, anything you do to support us through, whether it's through the stream, whether it's through the shop, or whether it's through anything like with that or whatever we got, then it all goes back into the league then to help and also to improve the league racing experience then in ALR. So we do very much appreciate it, and then everything will go back into the league. Then there's no Easter eggs, although Sean did say so yesterday. There's no Easter eggs being given out then to the commentators. There's no Easter eggs being given out to the admins. It all goes back into the league then, however we can, to improve the experience, that is. Vessia then up into a formidable front row. Their second place then 22-4 then for the McLaren driver. That displaces Kamara Racer, who's back out on a lap as well here. But that is a very good stuff indeed then for Vessia on his first lap, or first valid lap then here in qualifying. Great stuff indeed from the McLaren onto the front row. Can Kamara then beat that time? Then can he get himself back onto the front row? Can he take away pole position from Kiki? We'll have to find out. Here comes the Alpine flying down the main straight now. Let's see if he can improve enough then to get himself onto pole position. Not quite there, but he has improved by 2.5 tenths or so and puts himself back on the front row ahead of Vessia, and those two swapping places very quickly indeed then in that escapade through the last few laps of qualifying. Here comes Sam B. Green, and his teammate of Indigo is right in front of him as well here. I'm not quite sure if they're trying to work together here or what is going on, to be fair, between the AlphaTauris, but they are very close proximity indeed as we go through into the next couple of corners. And this is the end of the lap as well now, and they're both coming in the pit lane there, so I'm not quite sure what was going on between Indigo and Sam B. Green then, but they have both decided to come back to the pit lane there as well, so unfortunately I'm not quite sure what was going on at all there, but yeah, fingers crossed that they are okay and they're back in the pit lane now, so they can regather their thoughts and composure and go back out again. 6 minutes left of qualifying here, and yeah, like I said, thank you very much to Vintage then with the super chat, then fantastic stuff indeed from the star man then Vintage, and hopefully he can get himself a nice time on the board then to match his contribution then to the stream and to the channel and to ALR as well then. And good luck from Moomin as well then. Good luck from Kiki, who of course is currently on pole position, then looking strong in that Mercedes then on pole position. Star subscriber according to Sean, I believe, then says Vintage, and yes, you are star subscriber then for Vintage, and we appreciate that very much indeed. So it should be the same button as DRS, says Rocket Lizo, and Vessia said on used tyres as well then, so that time for Vessia that is 22.4 on used tyres then. I think that was his first set that he did he invalidated his first run, but he has got himself back up into P3 then on his second attempt then on the same set of tyres. Kaidel then in P5 then, looking good indeed for the Alpines as it stands then, both in the door. Dear, not so good in that corner though for Kaidel. Then he's dropped the car almost. Gordo's gone onto a medium compound tyre this time and improved to a 22.6. Then P7 for the championship leader. Kaidel almost losing the backhand then through the hairpin, has got the car pointed in the right direction. Marky up into P4 as well. Then he's back in the pit lane. Everyone's back in the pit lane apart from Martin as well. Let's see what Martin can do. Equans then, of course, is currently in the fight for a championship as well, or championship positions at least, and he's into P2 in the standings with Equans, but not set a time on the board just yet here in Qatar. Here comes Martin then. He's unfortunately run out of ERS already then, as we go into Sector 1, so I'm not quite sure Martin's issues are down at Ferrari. Maybe he's got a bit of a battery problem, but he seems to be coming back to the pit lane. I think there he has improved to a 24.5 for the time being, the slowest of the time runners out there as it stands, but there is 5 drivers yet to set a time on the board as well then. Mark is back out on a lap then. Gordo is coming back to the pit lane, I think, after setting his 22.6 on the medium compound tyres. The only driver to set a time then on a different set of compound tyres to this soft compound. And I'm not quite sure, like I said, not quite sure what the strategy is down in the McLaren garage here for qualifying, but seems to be going the opposite way to the rest of the field. So there we go, fair play. So he's not entitled to his own choices on strategy, that is. So yeah, we'll let him crack on then, so long as he does it safely. There we go then. No meaning the pit entry says moving as well, so I'm not quite sure what's going on down for the pit entry. Seems to be quite a self-explanatory pit entry. You go into the pit lane at the right hand side and you follow the walls around into the pits there, like Cordo has just done. So there we go. Indigo back out on a lap as well. Then we've got Marky, I think, ahead of us in the Williams. Yes, he is ahead of us. He is the only 2 drivers now on track then. Marky just finishing off an outlap then to start off his first and his second and final run here in qualifying. 3 minutes left of the session, and I think that will be it then at the end of this one then for the Williams driver and for Indigo as well. Then I think there might be some team tactics going on out here, maybe some slipstreams involved. Not quite though, because it seems only those 2 are out on circuit at the moment. Got a frisky mushroom, says Moomin. So, oh dear, that's a bit dangerous. So, yeah, fingers crossed that is not going to be off-putting then for 57 laps then, as Marky then comes through into, well, finishing off Sector 1 now. It's a bit of a long Sector 1, this one, and then you fly into Sector 2, which is a couple of hairpins, and then you're done pretty much. So that is that then. Not as short as the Sector 3 of Japan, of course, which we raced at last week, or 2 weeks ago now, sorry, for the 100% league, but of course earlier on this week then for gold, silver and bronze. So those drivers then have ticked off the Japanese Grand Prix from their list now onto Qatar here for the 100% league, and of course for gold, silver and bronze then from Sunday this weekend. So looking forward to seeing how the rest of the divisions tackle this circuit as well then. Bit of a preview here for the divisions as well then before we get ourselves into the thick of it then for the Losail Grand Prix in the 50% races. Of course, this is going to be just a 100% race, so it's very simple indeed. It is race around for 57 laps then and get to the checkered flag. So that is that then. Here comes Marky then. He's looking to get the checkered flag here and looking to improve on a 22.5. Let's see what the Williams driver can do then up to the line. Can he get himself further up the order? Yes, he can. He's up into P3 and he is improved by 2.5 tenths or so then. Where is Indigo going to go? Where is Indigo going to go? He's going to go up to P2 then with a fantastic improvement of 1.753 seconds to the front row of the grid then, 21.914. He's a tenth away from Kiki, but he has put himself onto the front row of the grid in a fantastic style indeed then. Look at that, from P14 then on his timing sheets all the way up to P2. So that is very good stuff indeed then from Indigo. Then great stuff for the AlphaTauri drivers as well then. Fantastic indeed. Then he's gone a bit slowly then on his in lap now. I think just cruising around then, celebrating that fantastic lap indeed. Then Marky stays P4. He's been displaced back down to P4, I should say, there by Indigo's time. Kaidel is back out on circuit now as well in the Alpine. Let's see what Kaidel can do coming through Sector 1. There's a slow AlphaTauri then of Indigo and a Williams then ahead of us. I think they might be those two who have just set their times on the board then. Indigo off the circuit. They're just getting out of the way then of these cars flying through. Here comes Kaidel around the hairpin, hoping that he doesn't lose the back end this time. Yes, he's got himself through in one piece. And looking good so far then for Kaidel. Let's see what he can do through Sector 2 as well then. This is where it gets a bit more technical as well, this circuit. Although, to be fair, it's quite a technical circuit all the way through, isn't it, really? But so far, so good then for Kaidel, then coming through into Sector 3 very shortly now as well in the Alpine. Can he improve on a 22.5? Can he get himself into the ranges then of the front row of the grid then? If he can find half a second or so, then that will put him in the range of Indigo's time. Let's see what he can do then as he comes through Sector 3 now, flying through Sector 3 very quickly indeed, then going a bit, he's almost over the white line there, keeping it valid then for the penultimate corner, then through the final corner now for Kaidel. Checker flag has fallen then. Kamara Racer is not improving then from P3. He's staying P3 at best. Here comes Kaidel though up to the line. Let's see what he can do then in the Alpine. He has improved then by 2 and almost 3 tenths of a second then up into P6, but VT10 Ultra then up into P4 with a fantastic time of a 22.2 as well. Puts himself on the second row of the grid then in the Alfa Romeo. Great stuff indeed from him. Here comes Vessia then. Let's see what Vessia can do. We're going to have come back to that because we've got a lot more drivers then crossing the line very shortly. We've had someone jump up the order, then RTB up into P5. Then here comes Equaz then for his first and only time on the board. Then it's P9 then for the championship contender then in P2 of the standings. Anybody's down in P10 now as Moomin has crossed the line to P9. Here comes a Mercedes then of Hassel then up to the line. Let's see what Hassel can do. It's P4 then for the Mercedes driver, then a 4/10 of a second improvement then to P4, second row of the grid for him. VT10 Ultra down to P5 and RTB P6, then Marky down to P7. Sandby Green's improved to Sandby. Where's he gone? He's jumped up to the order. No, there's Vessia to jump in up the order then to P3. Then 21.995 then for the McLaren. Then up into the second row of the grid then for his efforts. Then Gordo then has locked out the front row then for McLaren. It looks like then with a great time indeed. Then improving then to 22.1, and that was his first soft run as well. Then after doing hards, mediums, and then softs in his qualifying attempt. Then moving down to P12. Then we'll have a look at the classification then very shortly because all the time started coming in then very quickly at the end and I couldn't keep up. But there we go then. We all love vintage, says Rocket Lizo. Yes, we do. Pedals didn't work, says vintage. So there we go then. Kiki takes pole position here in Qatar. Fantastic stuff indeed then from the Mercedes driver. Looking strong indeed in the qualifying. Indigo P2. A great lap time indeed for the AlphaTauri. Then both the McLarens locking out the second row of the grid. Then Vessia P3, Gordo P4, Kamara P5. Then good stuff from Kamara. Hassel P6 then in the Mercedes. VT10 Ultra in the Alfa Romeo P7. R2B P8 then in the Haas. Marky P9 in the Williams then. And we've got an Alpine of Kaidel Kaidel rounding off the top 10. Zambi Green in the Alpha Tauri, then P11, Moomin in P12, then Equaz P13, Sickers Muck P14, Coop P15, and Martin rounds off the timing sheets then in P16. Vintage, Farf, Hungry Styles, and Serious Mushroom didn't get a time on the board here in qualifying.
BoxBox Hub is an absolute essential for any Formula One fan, and the entire app with new widgets, statistics, localized race schedules, and countdowns, you name it. They even have support for Apple's new live activities feature with real-time updates during a race right on the lock screen, and honestly, some of the best looking widgets I've seen.
If you haven't already, then check out BoxBox and ALR Shop. So there you go, there's your sponsors. But of course, BoxBox keeps you up to date then for everything involved with real life Formula One, that is. So you can get your extra widgets on your home screens. They look very nice indeed, then very professional stuff indeed on the home screens, etc. And of course, you can keep up to date with the standings, with your favorite drivers, with your favorite teams, and with everything that you could possibly want indeed. So that is good stuff. Right, we can get ourselves through then. We are ready to get ourselves started for the formation lap here in Qatar, and we are ready to get cracking in for the start of this race then. So check out BoxBox in the description, of course, if you're interested in keeping up to date with everything Formula One related in real life, that is. Of course, if you want to keep up to date with everything ALR related, get into the Discord and we can keep up to date with everything there as well. But good stuff. Of course, if you've got some pennies left over, then join us on the shop and get some nice ALR merchandise. I've got my nice ALR pink hoodie on, if you can tell. But there we go then, good stuff indeed. So yeah, wonderful indeed, and we can crack on then for the start of this Grand Prix here in Qatar then for 57 laps that are going to unfold in this desert really, but we'll have to wait and see how it's going to unfold as in front of our very eyes then. So we've got a bit of a combination of strategies then. It looks like three runners on the soft compound tyres, 4 runners on the hard compound tyres, and everybody else on the medium compound tyres. So Kiki from pole position then on the hard compound, same for VT10 Ultra then in P7 in the Alfa Romeo, then Marquis as well in P9 in the Williams then. And then Mr. Mushroom, P20 then all on the hard compound tyres. Those 4 soft compound tyres for R2 Beat then in P8, then Save for Movement in P7, then and for Martin in P16. And they will be looking for a very fast start then in this opening stint then. Everybody else then is on the medium compound tyres, so that is Indigo in P2, both the McLarens P3 and P4, Camaro and Hassel P5 and P6. Then we've got Kaidel just inside the points and Sandy Green just outside the points then on the mediums as well. Then we've got Ekpaz, Sickers Muck and Coop then P13 down to P15, and Vintage, Farf and Styles on the mediums as well then. Great stuff indeed then, as Kiki said, he got blocked in qualifying, though it didn't matter in the end then, because Kiki stayed on pole position in the end of that qualifying session as well. Then he is lining up on the grid then in P1. Hopefully we get a better camera angle of this start then, but it doesn't look like it, so we're going to have to stick on board with this attempt from Codemasters then. So we'll have to wait and see how it's going to reset, if it's going to reset at all then. But just waiting for the cars then to get ourselves lined up on the grid then for the start of the Qatar Grand Prix. So good stuff indeed. Then the 5 red lights are coming on here in Losail. Then the 5 red lights are on then, and the 5 red lights are off, and away we go here in Qatar. Then a good start then from Indigo then on the medium compound tyres, looking to get himself down the inside then of the Mercedes on the hards, but the Mercedes then has powered away in the second phase. Then down the inside goes Indigo, almost into the back goes the McLaren then of Gordo, who's trying to get himself past his teammate. Then into turn 2 we go, then piling through, then everyone else has got themselves through unscathed, I think. as it stands then. Good stuff indeed. Then Indigo holds on to P2 ahead then of the McLarens. Then there's a yellow flag in the background. It's a Mercedes then of Hassel. Then Kamara Racers had an issue as well in the background as well. They're down the back of the order, unfortunately, for the Alpine driver then. And I'm not quite sure what is going on there for Kamara Racer. Then he seems to be quite steady then on that restart, then trying to get himself back underway. Then VT10 Ultra then on the hard compound tyres is battling with the McLarens, and he's had a great start then, up 2 places as he's gained then on Kamara and on Hassel. Then unfortunately we've had Kaidel drop down the field as well. Then both the Alpines having issues then on the opening lap here, and struggling out there then trying to get themselves back underway then. And unfortunately then for Kamara and for Kaidel, then they're not having the best of luck then at the opening stages of this race. Then Martin's got himself past Vintage then for P14. A great start then for 17 of the drivers, and unfortunately for Hassel then, who is back in the train. He's got himself back in the train there, so it's not too bad then for Hassel. But both the Alpines then have had an issue somewhere. I'm not quite sure what happened then to both Kamara and to Kaidel. I think it was separate incidents as well, but it was a bit treacherous indeed then for those two. So hopefully they can get themselves back in this race. They're not too far off the race then, that is. But fingers crossed there's no damage then for the drivers out there as well. Then Kamara Racing looks like he's got the whole front wing intact then. So is Kaidel, because Kaidel was going around the final corner. He's carried on. He's not gone into the pit lane, so he's going to be trying to get himself back in the train. Indigo has taken the lead down the inside into turn 1, then on to lap 2 we go then, as we go through into turn 2 as well. Then Indigo round the outside this time has got the move then for the race lead, then up into P1 then for the AlphaTauri, and trying to power on away from the Mercedes. Of course, on the hard compound tyres is Kiki, so he's going to be going longer in the first stint compared to those on the medium compound tyres around him as well then. So he's going to try and hold on at this stage, and then try and use those tyres then when they do kick in, then when they do switch around then in favourable fashion. Then Vintage and Hassel then switching places. Then Vintage then has been passed by the Mercedes, then he's trying to recover in this race then after losing lots of places. I think it was 12 places in the end then, after getting himself back past Mushroom and past Vintage as well now. Kaido is only 2 seconds off the back of the field, then he's trying to catch up, then he's going to get himself back in the race, I think, then very shortly. But Kamara Racer is struggling out there. I'm not quite sure if there's wing damage then for the Alpine or not. Then we'll have to wait and see. Then Indigo trying to push on that, trying to get himself away then from the Mercedes as quickly as possible. Of course, DRS not activated then on lap 2 as it would be in real life. Then on the next game, of course, it will be activated on lap 2 because of course there's going to be one lap of action before the DRS is going to be open. Then, but of course in this game and in previous seasons of real life F1, it's been 2 laps before the DRS has been enabled. Then Vintage and Mushroom switching places. Then Mushroom up into P17 now ahead of the Red Bull car into the final turn. Then Indigo sets the fastest lap of the race, and he's really pushing on out there, trying to get himself away from the Mercedes as quickly as possible. Then the DRS has been activated. Then Versier all over the back of the Mercedes of Kiki on those hard compound tyres. He's starting to, well, not struggling, but he's still trying to battle then those on the mediums. Then Farf and Coop then switching places, then up into P11 now for Farf. 7 places gained then for the Haas driver, then on another good start then for the Haas team. Both the Haas is then almost put both the Haas is into the points. Then Farf is just outside the points by 7 seconds. Good stuff, right? The field then is not bunching up, not bunching out. Then it's not spreading out, I should say. Then at this stage, and it's very close indeed. Then very densely packed. Then from P1 all the way down to where is that? Down to P13. Very close stuff indeed. Then the McLarens then still status quo. Then the only two who have not gained or lost any positions. Then the McLarens staying P3 and P4 respectively as it stands. And we've got some more action down the field. Then as I think Hassel has got himself past Martin then into the hairpin and ahead of the Ferrari car then into the into sector 2 now as well. Then so Hassel trying to get himself back into this race very quickly indeed. Then he has lost 9 places as it stands then, but he's trying to get himself back into the points position, so I think he will do so very quickly indeed if he keeps up this pace in the Mercedes. Then Kaidel was caught up to the back of the queue now as well, so Kaidel then has got that pace then to get himself back in the field. Then unfortunately we didn't see what happened then between the for the Alpines. It wasn't between the Alpines then, it was for both the Alpines then, who have now down the inside into the final corner. Then here comes Kaidel. Then can he get the move then done on the Red Bull then? But now further up the order then we've got VT10 Ultra defending then from the Haas of R2P. Then down the inside goes the Haas, then trying to hold it around the outside goes the Alfa Romeo then, and he has held it around the outside then, very nicely done indeed. Then holds on to P5 for the time being as well. Great stuff indeed then from VT10 Ultra to keep hold of that place as well. Then great stuff indeed. Then they've lost a bit of time then to the McLarens. Then can they catch up? Then Farf and Moomin switching places. Then Farf and Moomin then going to go side by side into the hairpin now as well. Then round the outside goes Farf, trying to hold it. Oh my goodness me, there's contact between the two of them then, and I think Farf then is slotted back in behind the Aston Martin. Has it? Yes, he has, just about. So good stuff indeed. Then Farf then is not on board with me. They're on board with Farf now all over the back of that Aston Martin as we go through Sector 2, then into Sector 3. And like I said, the racing has been very close indeed in this opening 4 laps or so, but very clean as well. Then unfortunately though for the Alpines, and I'm not quite sure they're going to reiterate that statement, but I'm not quite sure what happened between the Alpines then on lap 1, but fingers crossed they can enlighten us at the end of the race as well then. But there we go then. Kiki staying inside of that DRS window then of the AlphaTauri then of Indigo, who can't stretch his legs far enough then to get himself outside of that 1 second to try and break away from the rest of the field. So, I've had a bit of tango before I started the race, and now I'm a bit burpy. But there we go. That's my life story. There we go into turn 1. Then there's a Haas off the track. Then not quite sure what is going on there between R2B. Hassel sets the fastest lap of the race, then looking to exercise that pace that he's got then, and unfortunately that incident has cost him dearly, because he could have been running with these top runners here in the points paying positions then if he didn't have that issue then on lap 1, but has got himself back in the fight then very quickly indeed. Then has the Mercedes driver. Then here comes R2B on the back of VT10 Ultra. They're losing a lot of time to the top 4 as it stands. A gap starting to form then between the Alfa Romeo then and the McLarens, who are splitting off in the distance then with the Mercedes of Kiki and the race leader of Indigo at this stage of the race then. But of course VT10 Ultra I think is on the hard compound tyres. Yes he is, so that is why he might be a bit slower at this stage. So good stuff indeed. But blimey, it's been an epic 5 laps then to open us up here in Qatar, and it is looking good so far in this race then for everybody who is on the track, that is, everyone's still on the track. They've got 20 drivers on the track, which is good. Tyre compounds then for the field then as it stands, then medium compound tyres for the majority, then hard compounds for Kiki, who has lost out from pole position then to Indigo at the opening first 3 laps. Then VT10 Ultra on the hard compound tyres is under pressure now from R2B, who's on the soft compound tyres going wide. There was the Haas then. That might be a warning then for the Italian driver then, as he comes around the final corner then to try and get himself into the fight then with VT10 Ultra then this time for the 5th place position, then looking to go down the inside then with some DRS there down the main straight. Then he's got the position, he's got the move done before the braking zone. Then he's up into P5 then is R2B then. Good stuff indeed then, and now can he try and get himself away then from the hard compound tyre runner of VT10 Ultra, and can he get himself into the range then of the McLarens further ahead as well? Then we'll have to wait and see. Sam B. Green up into P7 then after a start at qualifying P11, then he's up into the points paying positions as well. Then Markey in P8 then on the hard compound tyres as well, then looking to fight off the runners behind. But he's actually probably looking further ahead then rather than looking behind, because Ekbaz and Moomin are having their battle then into the hairpin we go of Sector 2. Favre hasn't been able to get himself past the Aston Martin then at this stage of the race. Then the soft compound tyres working out very nicely for the Aston Martin at this stage as well, as the same for the Haas of RTB and for Martin as well then. But unfortunately they are going to drop off a lot quicker than those on the medium compound tyres, and those on the hards especially as well then. But we'll have to wait and see what the strategy is going to be like how it unfolds then, because I have no idea. Unless you know in the comment section, you can let us know, but I have no idea what the strategy is going to be. I'm pretty sure the softs will drop off before the mediums, and the mediums will drop off before the hards, but that is just my F1 knowledge. But potentially that could not be the case. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see how it's going to unfold here in Qatar then. Of course, this is 57 laps around here. It's going to be a very long whole stint in the opening stint, I think, of everybody then trying to get themselves through and trying to keep an eye on the fuel levels, as we've seen quite a few issues then with the fuel around Qatar. Then here comes VT10 Ultra looking to get getting that 5th place back then on R2B, then down the inside into turn 1. Alfa Romeo now ahead, or back ahead I should say, then of the Haas car then into turn 1. Then he's got that position done. R2B down to P6, then Serious Mushroom and Hungry Styles switching places then in the background as well. Then Hungry Styles then dropping down to P16, Serious Mushroom up into P15, and we've got more action in the background. I think Martin has been passed by Kaidel, then Kaidel looking to get himself back in this race and is now up into P17. Kamara Racer then is up into P19. I think Vintage has had an issue somewhere there, because he's dropped down to the back of the field then as the Red Bull driver. Then hopefully he can get himself composed and back underway then for Vintage to get himself back in this race later on. Of course, we've got 50 laps remaining then at the end of this one. There's still quite a long way to go at the end of this lap. Then the 7 laps will be completed then, and we will have a bit more of a status of what the order is going to be looking like then for the remainder of this race then. Sickers Muck with the 3-second penalty. That is very bad news then for Sickers Muck then, who has now got the first penalty then of the evening, then going through Sector 2 then, I think going wide then through Sector 2. And like I was saying then before in the Discord, then the track limits around this circuit then is one that is going to be piling up the warnings, I think, as we go through this race then, especially with such a long race as well. And the first first penalty then for Sikkersmuck then in the Aston Martin then unfortunately then has been handed out then by the race stewards then, who are watching over this race with great keen eye on the track limits, I'm sure. There we go then. Indigo is now under pressure. Here comes Kiki. Can he go for a move down the inside? Not quite. He thinks better of it. Then he stays P2 right behind Indigo now, and Indigo I think is going to be looking in the wing mirrors very shortly, then seeing that Mercedes starting to loom closer and closer on those hard compound tyres as they start to phase in and get more competitive compared to the medium compound tyres very shortly indeed as well. Then Vessia holding on, then Gordo as well in the background. Then the top four now are split away 4 seconds down to VT10 Ultra. Then in the Alfa Romeo then as we go through sector 1 then RGB couldn't get himself past and down the main straight. Then he's under pressure from Sam B Green then on the medium compound tyres in the Alfa Tauri here as we go into the hairpin. So far so good in this race. It's been pretty entertaining in the first 8 laps and I'm already losing my breath, but that's not a comment on how good the racing has been. It could be the most dull race possible and I'll still lose my breath because I haven't been outside for any exercise in about 10 years. But that's just that. Then here we go. Then coming through into sector 2. And let's see what the Williams and Markey can do then on the hard compound tyres. Yellow flags. We've got yellow flags for Kaidel. Kaidel's had an issue then somewhere in sector 2. Then he's off the circuit. Then miles off the circuit as well. Then he's got himself back underway. But Vintage has gone through and taken back that P92 position. Then unfortunately for Kaidel, then he got himself back in this race. Then after a spin on lap 1, then he got himself back up the order. Then and unfortunately that second spin has cost him dearly as well. He's now down out of 3 seconds and out of range then of Vintage, who is 19th in this race then. So Kaidel's got a lot of work to do to get himself back in this one, but Kiki has taken back the lead then. Sam B Green has got himself past R2B, has he? Yes, and Marky's gone through as well then into P7 down in towards turn 1 then. The hard compound tyres then switching on then. Soft compound tyres for R2B might have already given up here in this race. We'll have to wait and see if he's going to come into the pit lane very shortly then. But yeah, like I was saying, then Indigo has lost the lead of the Grand Prix. Then Kiki then has taken back that position, of course, after starting from pole position then on the hard compound tyres. I think this is where we're seeing the hard compound tyres start to phase in now into this Grand Prix compared to those on the medium compound and of course those on the soft compound as well. Then the soft compound tyres for R2B seem to be starting to struggle. Then there's the car then twitching under the hairpin as we go through into sector 2 then, and R2B now under pressure from Equaz as well. Then Equaz of course a championship contender then as we got contact I think between the two of them. There's contact and movement has spun Equaz as well then out of this race. Well, not out of the race then, but out of the contention then of the points pen positions as it stands as well. Then he's back underway then, but now he's got Serious Mushroom then to contend with as well. Then Equaz back underway and then very quickly indeed then to lose the minimum time then, but Moomin then causing the contact. I think we saw, well, it wasn't, I think there was contact between R2B then and Equaz. They were going side by side. Hassel picks up a penalty as well. He's the second driver with a penalty here in this race so far. But we saw that I think it was Equaz and R2B then going side by side then into sector 2. But it was Moomin then who put the finishing move then on Equaz then to spin him around here. But unfortunately for Equaz, that's cost him very dearly indeed. He hasn't got any damage though, thankfully, so he can carry on in this race then and get himself back underway. Then he might have got a warning for that one going very wide at the exit of the final corner. Then Mark has got himself past Sam B Green for P6. The Williams car then are back underway then on the hard compound tyres, then getting himself back up the order then after a good qualifying as well. VT10 Ultra then picks up a penalty. We've got Sam B Green with the penalty as well. Then the penalty is starting to fall here in Hungary. Where are we? Qatar. It's not Hungary then, it is definitely Qatar, as you can tell from the night race and from the nature of the circuit as well. There's a lot of sand about, but there we are then. So 3 seconds for VT10 Ultra in P5, Sam B Green in P7, and then for Hassel and Sikkersmuck P12 and P13 respectively as well. Then so the penalty is starting to fall in here as like I was saying beforehand, the track limits then do start to add up around this circuit. Then at the pace we're going at as well, then it's going to be very difficult to try and keep within those white lines in as we go through, especially when the tyres start to fall off as well. Then R2B has lost a lot of time then to Sam B Green then, and Farf has got himself through up into P9 ahead of Moomin now as well. Then Moomin dropping down the order then on those soft compound tyres as well then. So the soft compound tyres I think starting to fade out then in this first stint here as they've got a lot of fuel on board as well. Remember the cars are going to be very heavy with fuel at this stage, so the soft compound tyres are going to wear out quicker than they would do if they were using the softs at the end of the race, I would imagine. But we'll have to wait and see what the strategy is going to be like. And as I said, I don't have a clue what the strategies are, so we'll have to wait and see what they're going to be doing out on track. Hassel then is looking to line up a move then for P11 at the stage and trying to get himself back past Coop then in the Williams as we go down the main straight. Then Farf and R2B switching places then into P8. Sorry, goes Farf ahead of his teammate there. A bit of team orders then from the Haas as well. Into turn 1 goes Hassel then ahead now of the Williams of Coop and into P11 as well then. Kamara Race has got himself past Martin now into P17. Kamara trying to get himself back in this Grand Prix then, just like his teammate did previously then, but hopefully this time Kamara doesn't have any spins or anything like that then to hamper his recovery as well. Of course, Kaidel then has had 2 spins in this race then, one on the opening lap then, and one unfortunately only about 2 or 3 laps ago as well then, after recovering very well, but he's now down into P20 then, trying to get himself back in this race once again then, in the Alpine, I should say then. There we go, trying to remember what team he's in then. But there we go. Indigo now is 7/10 of a second behind then. They've dropped the 2 McLarens for the time being as well, then these two. So they're setting some great pace out there at this stage of the race then. Good stuff indeed then. But they of course need to factor in then the fuel loads, the tyre wear, everything like that as well. Sicker's Muck picks up another penalty. That's 6 seconds for Sicker's Muck already then in this race. So those penalties really starting to add up then for the Aston Martin driver. Hassel picks up a penalty as well. Then those two are now both with 6 seconds of penalties. That's quite a lot indeed then for both those two as well then. Here comes Indigo then on the attack then for the race lead. Can he get himself into a contention then now down towards turn 1? He is too far back already then, I think, to make any late moves then into turn 1, then stays behind the Mercedes of Kiki for the time being. And here comes Marky then on the back of VT10 Ultra then into turn 1, not quite making the move though, but VT10 Ultra holding on then at this stage of the race then. Good stuff indeed then on those hard compound tyres. So both the Hasses are staying status quo as well. Moving Ninja's trying to follow them through then. He's currently in the points position, still just about. And that is good enough for a singular point then for the time being. But of course we're only on lap 12, so there is still quite a way to go in this race. I think that's 45 laps to go then at the end of this lap. So quite a lot of work still to do, especially for me. Try and keep the head as Hassel then is on the medium compound tyres and trying to get himself past the Aston Martin and moving. Then round the outside we go then for the Mercedes, and there's more rubbing of wheels then as we go through into sector 2 then. All over the back now of the Aston Martin then is the Mercedes of Hassel. Then these two getting very close indeed between the two of them as they go down the inside. Then Hassel then almost spun the car, and I think that was an ambitious move indeed then from Hassel. Then he's almost lost the car then on the traction then, and Coop now could be getting interested in the Mercedes as well as we go into sector 3. And I think over ambitious then from Hassel trying to go down the inside there, but he's had to back out now and has lost a bit of time to the Aston Martin as well. Now Coop then getting himself on the back of that Mercedes as well. They're looking to get interested in this battle as well. Then here we go on to lap 13. Then Indigo Kamara Racing picks up the penalty. Then Indigo is still in contention then with DRS then, but he's not close enough to make a move into turn 1. He stays P2 for the time being. They're stretching their legs now over the McLarens then are the top 2 out in front. Then Markey then is trying to get himself into P5, but he can't quite get himself past the Alfa Romeo then down into the main straight then. RTP holding on to his teammate of Farf then and protecting himself from moving, and as well then Sick as Muck has been passed by Serious Mushroom then into turn 1, then down to P14 for the Aston Martin, up into P13 for the Ferrari, and now stretching his legs as well on those hard compound tyres. Then a bit of a slow exit then from Serious Mushroom though. Sick as Muck then all over the back of him here as we go down towards turn 4, but the Ferrari holds position for the time being. Then Martin, the other Ferrari, then picks up a penalty, then going very wide. All Serious Mushroom almost drifting it around the corner then as well, as the hairpin is next up. Then don't drift around here, sir, because you will lose the car into a spin there, but he's managed to keep himself composed then at this stage of the race. Good stuff indeed. Sick as Muck then right behind him. Ekmaz then of course has had that issue then with moving then, who's spun him out then in this part of the circuit then, but he's now got himself into P15 then, and back in this fight then with Serious Mushroom and Sick as Muck as well. Then 5 seconds the gap between Serious Mushroom and Coop, who of course is on the medium compound tyres. So we've only got 4 runners on them hard compound tyres. We've got Serious Mushroom who's down in P13, then Movement picks up a penalty then for his troubles as well. Then the track limits then starting to bite back at the drivers here as well then, but Movement then picks up a 3-second penalty as well then in P10. So Serious Mushroom then, who's on the hard compound tyres. Same for Markey in P6 and for VT10 Ultra in P5, and of course for our race leader of Kiki. But here we go into turn 1 then. Is Markey going to go for a move down the inside? Not quite. He thinks about it. Then VT10 Ultra I think was trying to let him through as well, to be fair, as here goes the Hasses as well then, both R2B and Farf then battling away then through turn 1 and 2, but they have resumed their positions once again then. Movement there is looking to try and pounce then on any indecision then between the two Hass pair, but can't quite make it through then on R2B, then stays P10 for the time being as well. Hassel's caught back up into this queue. Coop then trying to hold on at this stage into sector 1 and 2 as well then for the Williams car, then could get himself into the points. Currently is in the points as well then, to be fair, already then with the penalty situation then as it stands, that is, but of course there's still plenty of laps to unfold here in Qatar, so we can't quite call it exactly on the penalties just yet. So we'll have to wait until the end of lap 57 I think, but Yeah, so far so good then out here. Hungry Styles now joining the fight then for this these positions. Well, Kaido picks up another penalty for his troubles as well out there. He's not having a great time in the Alpine after trying to get himself back in this race twice now, and trying to chase down the Aston Martin, sorry, the Red Bull of Vintage and the Ferrari of Martin in P19 and 18 as it stands respectively. Then good stuff indeed. And the rest of the field then the fights are starting to calm down through some of the order. Not so much then in the race lead. Then let's see what Indigo can do. Can he get himself back into contention then with Kiki down into turn 1? Not quite. Then the Alpha Tauri, sorry, stays P2. Then here comes Marky then on the back of the VT10 Ultra as we go in towards turn 1. VT10 then looking to take the inside to try and defend there, but Marky has breezed past for the DRS then into turn 1 into P5 now for the Williams car then. Good stuff indeed. And he's back up into almost where he started, I think. Where did he start indeed? We'll have to find out. He's up 4 places. Never mind, he's up from P9. I thought he started up in P6 somewhere. But he's got himself into top 5 now. But VT10 Ultra is going to have something to say about that. He's going to try and stick with that Williams as close as possible then for the rest of this stint at least. Potentially for even longer. RTB now is losing time, I think, on those soft compound tyres. Then moving is trying to go around the outside here in the Aston Martin. Then blimey, that is a good move indeed. If he can hold it, that is the question. Can he hold it? Is the question. R2B is battling back then, and now down the inside goes the Aston Martin. Then it's going to be close indeed. Then and R2B has lost out, I think, then to the Aston Martin as well. Then up into P9, then for moving, then splitting the two Haas pair as we go into sector 3. Then Hassel then trying to go down the inside, I should say, then of the Haas as well. Then and now Hassel into the top 10 as it stands. I think RGB trying to fight back here as well. They're going to go side by side through sector 3. Not quite. Then that is not a place you want to go side by side through, especially then if you're on very old soft compound tyres, because their understeer then is not going to be in your favour for sure, especially if you're on the inside. But he has got himself through. Then Hassel then up into P10. Then R2B is the first to come into the pit lane. Then so that is going to be an indicator. Then maybe a bit of a call then from the Haas. And he decided to call it over in 16 laps then on the soft compound tyres. Then VT10 Ultra has got himself back past Marquis, then into turn 1 and back up into P5 now for the Alfa Romeo team. Good stuff indeed then from VT10. He's done a great job out there. Into the pits comes R2B. Let's see what tyres he's going to go on to. And it is the medium compound tyres then for the Haas pair. So good stuff indeed. Then he's done a great stint then on the soft compound tyres. They did seem to start to drop off quite quickly. But now trundling down the pit lane, he's going to be back out in P20 unfortunately. But he has got himself a fresh set of boots then on that Haas car. So let's see what he can do then in the next stint for this race then. Kaido is all over the back now of Martin and Vintage. These three going to start off their battle as well, and R2B going to catch up, I think, very quickly indeed on those fresh medium compound tyres. But he is he's on 15 laps less or 16 laps less now on those medium compound tyres compared to everybody else in the field. Then everybody else has not stopped yet, so it is going to be the maybe that could be the start of the sprinting of the pit stops then very shortly as those start to think about what R2B is up to then. Strategies then, maybe trying to cover off the Haas if they were involved in a battle with him very closely previously then as well. Then here comes the next battle. Then Indigo all over the back end of Kiki then, but he's not close enough, I don't think, to make a move then into turn 1 far. Picks up a penalty in P8. Then that's the penalties rolling in there very quickly, and Markey is in the pit lane. That is a knock ball then from Markey on the from the hard compound tyres. Then he's decided to call it a day then on the hards already, and he's into the pit lane now. So for the Williams team, so very interesting stuff indeed. 16 or 17 laps then on the hard compound tyres, but he's decided to call it a day then as early as those on the soft compound tyres. As some of the soft compound tyres still going out there, the likes of Martin and Moomin as well then. So interesting stuff indeed. But where will he come out is the question. And where is he going to be coming out in terms of this battle here as well? Then Kamara Race has gone through. Then can he get himself out ahead then of this pack as well? Vintage, Martin and Kaido. Then it's going to be close indeed as we go down towards turn 1. But Marky coming out the pit lane now into turn 1. He goes and he is ahead then of the Rebel car. And now trying to get himself out of that 1 second window as well, because he doesn't want to be swamped then by those 3 cars who have yet to pit as well. Then RTB is coming through. He's 3 seconds behind now. He was over 4.5 seconds behind then when he came out the pit lane. So that time is tumbling down then by 1.5 seconds a lap. Then it's going to be very close indeed as message retracted then from Rocket Lizo. So that's good stuff as well. Out in front then, the top 2 have now got a 7-second gap almost to Vessia, who's picked up a penalty himself as well. Then that's bad news for Vessia. Then he's going to be demoted out down at place as it stands then to his teammate Gordo, who is going to take that final podium place away from him if it finishes this way then. But of course there is still 40 laps to go then at the end of this one, so we'll have to wait and see then if it's going to finish this way. I would assume not so much, because I think there's going to be plenty of changes to come then in this race. Down towards turn 1 then, Kiki still holds on to the lead. Then he's just cruising out there as well. I think Indigo might be just saving some fuel, saving some ELS then behind as well. And Farf into the pits, Samby Green in the pits as well then, so he's calling it down medium compound tyres. Mark, he's got a 3-second penalty now for his troubles as well, then going through into the final part of Sector 3 then, trying to get himself through on his first flying lap then on those hard compound tyres, and get himself ahead then of those he was battling with as well then potentially. Let's see where he will come out in respect to Samby Green, who I think is going to be the first driver to cross the pit exit line. Marky then is out, and Samby Green is out, but he's ahead then. Marky is ahead, sorry, I should say then. There's all sorts of action going on behind then. Here comes Kaidel then through turn 1, then it's going to be close indeed with the AlphaTauri as we go through into turn 2. Then they're going to be side by side, it looks like here, as we go around the outside then for Kaidel. No, he's got the inside, I should say then, but now the house of Farf is going to get himself involved in this battle as well then, and they're going to go a bit of wheel banging, I think, there between Farf. No, it wasn't Farf then, it was the other house then of R2P, I think then, who has actually undercut, I think, then to get himself ahead of Samby Green as well then. Around the outside of the hairpin then goes R2B, looking to hold the move. Then can he make the move then on Kaidel? Then there's being pushed off the track very slightly there by the Alpine, but now down the inside then into Sector 2. And he's got the position, I think. Then here he goes. Then Samby Green looking to try and make any more optimistic moves as well. Then, but I think those tyres they're not just warmed up just yet enough for the Alpine. The AlphaTauri to make a move. Then he's almost into the back of the Alpine as well. Then too many A's, and I can't keep up. Then Farf has made an opportune move then on the soft compound tyres, getting himself through as well now. And Farf all over the back. Then it's Kaidel this time into Sector 3. This is going to get close indeed. This is of course not very overtaking friendly place as well. Then as we go through into the penultimate corner now as well, then down the inside there's contact between Farf and Kaidel then as we go into the penultimate corner, then down towards the final corner. And I think, where's Kaidel gone? He's in the pit lane, that is where he's gone. But I think that was very close indeed, a very good battling indeed as well then. Into the pits comes Moomin, into the pits comes Hungry Styles as well, then onto the soft compound, medium compound tyres, sorry. Kaidel also in the pit lane, Martin is in the pit lane too, as we've got all sorts of action. Then the top 8 have yet to pit then, so the top 8 staying out as it stands in this Grand Prix. Lap 19 has commenced as well here, but there we go. Then Vintage yet to pit as well then. Down in P11 as it stands as well then. R2B is, Marky is currently the net race leader as it stands, with the pit stops that is, but of course in terms of timing that might not be the case then. Farf has lost out to Samby Green then as we go into the hairpin then. Oh, and there's contact from Vintage then on the back of Farf then, and Vintage has spun around here as well then into the hairpin, and he's lost out very dearly indeed there as well. Cooper's gone past, Moomin has gone past as well then. Vintage, and I think might have some damage on that car as well then with the contact he made on the back of that Haas diffuser. But I'm not quite sure what has happened there. Then Vintage then losing sight then of the braking zone, I think then, because he saw all the cars flying through. Then unfortunately for Vintage then I think there might be some damage then on the front wing. Hopefully not then is the case, but we'll have to wait and see. Out in front then Kiki and Indigo are very close indeed. Now Indigo's edged a bit closer now to the Mercedes driver as we go into Sector 2 very shortly indeed then, as 9 seconds is the gap. Then Kamara Racing is in the pit lane now as well. Then Moomin picks up another penalty then. Unfortunately for Moomin, he's just pitted for a fresh set of medium compound tyres, and now under pressure from Coop, who's on the hard compound tyres almost into the back of them then at the final corner, as Coop's gone off the circuit there as well. He's got a 3-second penalty for his troubles as well then, unfortunately for Coop. But now trying to get himself past the Aston Martin then of Moomin as we go down towards the start-finish straight. Multiple warnings then for Kaidel, who has got a penalty then added to his race time, and not quite sure what Moomin is up to here. He's twitching all over the place, is Moomin. So I think he needs to sort his internet out then, does the Aston Martin. And Equaz has got himself past Sirius, mushroom into turn 1 and up into P14. Trying to recover in this race is Equaz. Then, of course, after that contact from the Aston Martin and Moomin beforehand as well. Then Kaidel out in front of Vintage. Then Martin is down into P19. Vintage back out of the pit lane into P20 then on the medium compound tyres. Good stuff indeed. Then here comes no, none of the top runners and not top 2 are staying out. Then here comes Vessia. Is he going to choose to pit into the box? Then yes, he is. Then so from P3 he's going to come into the pit lane now, sort out those medium compound tyres, get off those medium compound tyres now, and get onto another set of compound tyres. We don't know what tyres he's going to do, but we'll find out. Then Gordo stays out. Then VT10 Ultra is staying out as well. Then Hassel stays out. Sick as Muck then is a bit too far back. Then we'll have to wait and see if the Aston Martin's going to stay out or not. Then as we come through into the penultimate corner. Then he is coming in the pit lane, and so that is Mrs. Ticker's not calling it a day on the medium compound tyres as well. Good stuff indeed. Then here comes Vessia then out of the pit lane. Where is he going to be in relation to Markey? Because Markey, of course, had an undercut onto the soft compound, onto the hard compound tyres. As the McLaren comes out of the pit lane, there is the Williams car in the background, and a bit of overspeed then for the Williams car. Can he get closer? Can he get closer into turn one? He's not close enough then to get himself ahead of the McLaren then. But there we are. Then we'll have to wait and see if he can get himself in DRS range. Then 1.1 seconds, the gap between Markey and Vessia. As it stands then, Ticker's Markey is going to be dropping down the order. Then here he comes then out of the pit lane now. Can he get himself ahead of Kamara Racer in the Alpine? Then yes, he can, I think. Yes, he is back underway now as well in the Aston Martin. Good stuff indeed, out in P15 and onto a fresh set of medium compound tyres and back underway. The top 5 who yet to pit now, so the only 5 drivers yet to pit then in the first stint, that is. Well, for the first stint, Indigo carrying on here into the final turn, then right behind Kiki as it stands as well. Then as we go on to lap 22 then of 57, then we're almost at halfway distance. So we'll be flying through this race then. It's been very good stuff indeed out there. Gordo is in the pit lane now as well, pitting a lap later than his teammate. Then that might be very costly indeed for Gordo, because he was in contention with his teammate earlier on then, but we'll have to wait and see, making sure he slows the car down for that pit entry. Then VT10 Ultra is also in the pit lane as well. Then he's called it a day on the hard compound tyres and switching it up then here in the Alfa Romeo garage as well. Then Gordo wants a set of medium compound tyres again, so he's done medium has Gordo, and back underway. Where will he come out in relation to his teammate and to Markey as well? Because Markey is going to be very close indeed, I think, to this battle. Then Vessia is going to fly through. Then here comes Gordo out of the pit lane now, but Markey, I think, is going to go through as well. Then Gordo has dropped down to P6. Then can he get himself out ahead of the Haas pair? No, it's not a Haas pair. Sorry, yes, it is the Haas pair. Sorry, right behind us, R2B and Farf. Farf going down the inside then of his teammate. Then with the soft compound tyres, then he's up into P7 now. Is the lead Haas now as Farf. But now Sam Big Green then all over the back of both the pair of them into Sector 1 we go then in the Alpha Tower, and of course on the hard compound tyres. Difference in strategies here still, because there's still 3 to pit yet, but there's also quite a combination in the strategies. Those who have pitted for the mediums, pitted for the softs, and pitted for the hards. Then there's all sorts of differences in the second stint then for these drivers out here as well. Then, well, to be fair, only one driver's pitted for the soft compound tyres, and that was Farf. But there we go. Then we can't hold it against him, but we'll try to. So there we are then, into lap 22. Almost to lap 23 now. Sorry, these two, the top two, still carrying on out there, soldiering on in the race in this one, and they don't want to be coming in the pit lane at all at this stage of the race. It doesn't look like, so they want to carry on for as long as possible. Then 21 seconds the gap. Then, but Hassel is in the pit lane then from P3. Of course, it's not a net P3 then, but he is into the pit lane now to get off those medium compound tyres. Farr picks up another penalty then for his troubles. Then he's trying to catch up to Gordo. Then Gordo is actually in the range then for the Haas pair now as well. Then as Hassel is into the pit lane, we'll see what he goes on to. It's a set of soft compound tyres then for the Mercedes car. But we'll see where he comes out as well. Then Vessia, the last lap of the race, then he is trying to charge on there. But Markey, I think, is now... No, he's not within DRS range. Vessia is miles ahead, sorry. At this stage, here comes Farf, then on the back of Gordo. Can he get himself through then into turn 1? Gordo on the medium compound tyres. Farf on 5-lap-old soft compound tyres then, but Gordo holds on to the place then for the time being. R2 beat then on the medium compound tyres. VT10 Ultra picked up another penalty, then it's going to be tight on penalties out here, I think, as we've seen then, as the penalties start to rack up here in Losail. Then we're almost at the halfway stage then of the... Well, not actually, we're about 7 laps off the halfway stage, or 5 or 6 laps off the halfway stage, but we're almost there. But it is starting to pile up then the penalties into this race so far in this race as well. Then VT10 Ultra on the medium compound tyres, then fresh medium compound tyres as well. Then all over the back of Sam B. Green into sector 2. And trying to pick his place, then trying to pick his pace, then trying to get himself past into P8 as well. Out in front, then Indigo carries on, then on to lap 24 now, as we can pretty much go and scroll over to the action then elsewhere, then and come back to see what Indigo and Kiki are doing onto the main straight each lap now as well. Then Farf, then all over the back of Gordo, he's into the DRS range, and he's dropped his teammate of RTB then out of the 1 second window as well. Could put him in danger then of Sam B. Green and VT10 Ultra as well, then who are trying to fight for positions here into sector 3. VT10 Ultra almost pushing the AlphaTauri through the corners there as well, then into the final turn and looking to dive down the inside. There's contact between the two of them as well. Then there's that was a very dangerous and ambitious move, I should say, from the Alfa Romeo then, but he's got himself through unscathed, thankfully. Sam B. Green has lost out then to the Alfa Romeo, I should say. Then into turn 1 we go, and into turn 1 we go, and VT10 Ultra has got the position, then he can't get himself past R2 Pete though. Couldn't be a double move then, unfortunately. Then Kaido's picked up a penalty then for his troubles in sector 3. No, yes, it is Sector 3, sorry. He's now all over the back of Hungry Styles, then far for not sure if Serious Mushroom and Equaz are switching places, then into Sector 1. Yep, into Turn 1, then Equaz ahead now into P14. But we've got VT10 Ultra getting himself past the Hass of RTB, then into the hairpin then of Sector 1, which is great stuff indeed. Great move indeed then from the Alpha there. Up into P7 now as well, chasing down Farf then on those fresh medium compound tyres. He's got the freshest medium compound tyres out there, apart from Gordo, who pitted on the same lap then. So Gordo is going to be all over the back then very shortly of Marky, I think, very soon, as there's contact between the Mercedes then and the Williams of Coupe, and both of them are off the circuit. Then Hassel then has made issue then with Coupe as well. Then Coupe's got himself back underway very quickly indeed, but Hassel then has had an issue then, and he's lost out once again then on the restart, or trying to get his car restarted I should say, to Equaz then and Serious Mushroom, who have flown through then into P12 and P13 respectively as well. Then not quite sure what was going on there, but Hassel then went for an ambitious move, I think, down the inside of the Williams car then into Sector 2, which is definitely not an overtaking place. I can say that freely because it's pretty much impossible then. But yeah, there we go then. Unfortunately for the Hassel, he's dropped down the field. He's on the soft compound tyres, can get himself back in the range of the fight ahead then very quickly indeed. Then he's got the soft compound to try and do that as well. Then Sam B. Green has got himself past R2B, then R2B then starting to struggle on those medium compound tyres already, I think there, but he's lost out then to the likes of Sam B. Green and VT10 Ultra very quickly indeed. Hassel has got himself back up into P13 and past the Ferrari of Serious Mushroom. Then Kamara's got himself past Sicker's Muck, then up into P15 now, trying to get himself back in this race. And unfortunately the Alpines had a very difficult start then, but they're now almost at halfway distance. Getting himself back in this fight very soon, hopefully as well. And we've seen the pace from both the Alpines and in the earlier stages of this season as well, and hopefully he'll get himself back in this one very quickly indeed. Into the pits comes Indigo then from P2. He's decided to call it a day finally. They're always medium compound tyres, 25 laps in on the medium compound tyres, looking pretty good indeed then on that stint. And I think he'll come out in P2, which is exactly where he pitted from, because he's got a very sizable gap then to Vessia then, who's coming through Sector 3 now. But Indigo then is already onto a new set of tyres, I think there. Yes, he is. He's back underway. Or is he? No, he's not back underway then. He's had an issue somewhere. No, he's not. He's teleported, and I think he's gone. Is he gone? Where is he? We can't see what's going on here. Yes, he is out of the pit lane now. He's back underway then, but Vessia is going to be very close indeed then to the AlphaTauri, as Indigo coming out of the pit lane here. And yeah, Vessia then has done a great job then. He's caught up to the AlphaTauri very quickly indeed then, far from VT10 Ultra then switching places. Then VT10 Ultra going down the inside at Turn 1 has got the position then on the Haas up into P6 now for the Alpha Romeo. Then good stuff indeed, as yeah, like I said, Indigo is under pressure now from Vessia, and Vessia's done a great job then with the undercut, 5-lap undercut as well. Then he's negated almost about 9 seconds I think it was between the top two then and Vessia himself then before the pit stop phase. Then that undercut from Vessia has been fantastic and very powerful indeed, and now he's into the fight then for the podium places, I dare say, because of that undercut as well then. So it could have been a fantastic call then from Vessia then to get himself into this fight then. Marquis is holding up Gordo, then Gordo's all over the back end of the Williams car then into Sector 2. Like I was saying, not much of an opportunity overtaking place then. VT10 Ultra then has got himself into the DRS range of these two as well then. Farf also being brought along with them on the soft compound tyres. Sam B. Green won't be too far behind, I don't think, as well then, so we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen there. Then here comes Vessia then all over the back of the AlphaTauri of Indigo, and like I was saying, that's a fantastic strategic call then from Vessia. Medium then so far, but we'll have to wait and see what he's going to go on to next then. But so far he's got himself into the fight then for P2, of course penalties permitting as well. Vessia does have a penalty that we added onto his race time at the end of the Grand Prix, but he has done a great job then to save himself almost 9 seconds, catch up 9 seconds or so then to the top two, despite Indigo having that DRS as well then, right behind Geeky for a majority of that stint as well. Then Gordo's got himself past Marky, and VT10 Ultra is going to try and get himself past both of them. Is he going down the inside? Oh, it's close indeed then. VT10 Ultra's got the position, I think. Has he? Yes, he has. There's just about cars width then between Gordo and VT10 Ultra as it goes through Turn 2 and into Turn 3. And he has made the move, and fantastic stuff indeed then. And into Turn 4 we're going. Vintage has got a 3-second penalty added onto his race time as well then, unfortunately for Vintage, and he's struggling out there on the medium compound tyres in the Rebel then, but hopefully he can get himself back underway back in this race as well then. Vessia then is got 24 seconds to the race leader of Kiki, sorry. We're watching Gordo at the moment then in the McLaren, but Kiki then has not pitted yet. He's the only driver so far yet to make a scheduled stop in this Grand Prix. Everybody else has made their stops already then, and Vessia then has made a great job of the undercut, then going onto the medium compound tyres 6 laps ago now, and has got himself into contention then for a better place than in P3 as it stood at the time then. So now they've got a 7-second gap as well to Gordo. Gordo was with Vess here at the before the stops as well. Then Vess here has really gone great guns then in this next stint, then the second stint, to get himself in contention here as well. Then VT10 Ultra then is trying to get himself away from Gordo, from Markey, from Farf now, and Sandy Green trying to catch up to the battling pack as well then as quickly as he can. But there we go then, flying down the main straight. Here comes Gordo then on the attack. Then can he get himself back past the Alfa Romeo then into turn 1? He's too far back, I think. Then VT10 Ultra makes a late move then to defend the inside then, but Gordo's trying to go around the outside here as well into turn 1. Oh, there's contact between the two of them there as well then. Issues between the Alphas and the McLarens then as we go into turn 3 as well then. But I think the Alfa Romeo has held on. Yes, he has held on to P4 for the time being as we pile down into the rest of sector 1 then into sector 2 as well now, and flying through in quick proximity then. Time's tumbling down in the front then, 23.6 seconds the gap now. It was over 25 seconds then only last lap I think it was, so it's really coming down very quickly indeed then. Those fresh tyres then for Gordo, not for Gordo, sorry, for Vess here and for Indigo then are really taking the chunks out of Kiki then, who has done 27 laps or 28 laps at the end of this one then on those hard compound tyres. So it's been a fantastic stint indeed, but those tyres I think are not too happy with the Mercedes car right now, Mercedes driver right now, because they probably want to be taken off and put on a new set very soon. But there we go then. That is up to Kiki when he wants to come into the pit lane, that is. We'll have to wait and see when he chooses to. Of course, he's got to pit at least once in this race unless it starts to rain, but we're not expecting any rain I don't think around here. Yeah, we'll wait and see then. But yeah, he's got to pit at least once in this race then has Kiki, and he has not pitted just yet, and everybody else has made their stops though. So we'll have to wait and see what they're going to do next then. VT10 Ultra doesn't defend now this time from Gordo once again. Then he's gone to cover the inside. Then here comes Gordo down the outside. Then this time he's got a bit more overspeed. Has the McLaren. Can he hold it around the outside this time? But the Alfa Romeo says no once again. And into turn 2, he holds on to P4 once again as well. Then ahead of the McLaren. Great stuff indeed, and good battling between the two of them as well. Leaving enough space, then being very respectful, being very careful of the other car as well. Then as Markey has lost out the DRS then to the two of them battling away. Then those two of the McLaren and the Alfa Romeo. Then Favre's picked up another penalty. Then he's gone wide once again. And Favre then they're picking up all the warnings. Then there's Favre in the Haas then right behind Markey, trying to get himself back past into P6 then. But the penalties are not going to be in his favour then as it stands. Then R2B has kept it clean so far, and he is 2 seconds off the battling pack ahead of him. Those who have kept it clean are Kiki then in the race lead, Indigo in P3, Gordo in P5 then, and R2B, this man here, Kaido, picks up another penalty as well. Then Ekpal in P13 and Sirius both are keeping the penalties off their backs for the time being. On to lap 30 of 57 that is. This has been an action-packed race. It's been non-stop racing as well then so far. I don't want to jinx it, but it's been very good stuff indeed. Then there is the Mercedes then of Kiki then. We'll have to give him some time on the screen because we haven't seen him for most of this race then, apart from the very start. Then Moomin picks up a penalty as well then, unfortunately for the Aston Martin driver. But Kiki then has been a bit lonely then in this stint then, apart from when Indigo was all over the back, and then for the first 25 laps or so. But in the last 5 laps he has been a bit of no man's land then, trying to chase down the cars ahead, lapped cars ahead as well I should say. Then Gordo's gone down the inside then into turn 1 this time, trying to make the move then on the Alfa Romeo. Then can he hold on down the inside? There goes the Alfa Romeo into turn 2, and can he hold it round the outside? Then is Gordo, then can he hold it round the outside? Right, and then he has to slot in behind once again then down towards turn 4, and they're going to go side by side through here. There could be contact. That's dangerous stuff indeed, and thankfully they escape. But escape without any damage, that is, or any incidents then as well. Then VT10, oh no, there's Gordo's gone down the inside in the hairpin then, but VT10 Ultra is battling back then to hold off the McLaren into sector 2 then, and blimey, I thought that battling was done then, but Gordo still wanted to fight then, didn't he? Favre's got himself past Markey then into P6 now in the Haas then. Good stuff indeed. Those soft compound tyres I think might be starting to get towards the end of their best life right now in the Haas car, for the Haas car. But we'll wait and see what's going to be going on there. Hassel's got himself back into the range then of the points pen positions then after that spin with Coop as well. Then Coop then on the hard compound tyres. I'm not quite sure if Coop's trying to go to the end of the race from here, but we'll have to wait and see. Hard compound tyres from Markey as well. Then Markey all over the back of Favre then. Favre did just get past them, but of course Markey then's going to have some DRS there down towards down towards turn 1 then onto lap 31 of 57. Sorry, my nose is itching. overtaken by Ultra is going to be hit. Good stuff indeed. To be fair, Ultra and Gordo have had some great battling in the last 5 laps or so, then in towards this turn here, turn 1, sorry. But they've both kept it very clean indeed, and they've both done it very respectfully indeed between the two cars, and some great battling indeed as well. Then Farther's been passed by Marky, then up into P6 now for the Williams car. Then Hassel then all over the back then of moving into turn 1. Oh my goodness me, what's going on there? Then they've glitched into each other. Then has Moomin and Hassel, and Hassel's picked up another 3-second penalty for his troubles as well. They're not quite sure what is happening between the Aston Martin and the Mercedes, but I think it seems like they're both there, but I'm not quite sure. I think Moomin's having issues then with his internet, so if Moomin can hear me, either turn the stream off because they can be lag, or stop racing. Oh my goodness me, and that is exactly what you don't want to do then into Sector 2 or into any racing, to be fair, into any corner. Then he's made contact, then thankfully they didn't spin out. Then Hassel has got himself past then, and Moomin has outbraked himself then into the hairpin as well now. So fantastic stuff indeed, and that is that then so far. So great. But yeah, to be honest, then if you're streaming the stream and racing the race, then you can either do one or the other really. So that is that. Then Moomin is retired. Then Moomin is retired. Then, and what is he? Moomin is retired. Then, and he's caused a virtual safety car here. So I'm not quite sure what is going on there. Moomin is out of the race then as well. Then he is the first casualty. If he had some internet issues, all he could have done is just retire in the pit lane like a considerate racer, I suppose you could say. But there we go. Then we've got some pit activity then for R2 beat, then for Hassel, then and for Ekwaj. So there is some more pit activity. Serious knocking in the pit lane as well. Then Sickers knocking to the pits as well in P15, almost in the back of the Ferrari as well as we go into the box. But there we go then. So a lot of drivers then choosing the VSC to make their pit stop. Hassel after 100 stars into pits as well, and to Kydell. So there's all sorts of pit activity then for those drivers. DRS enabled a very quick VSC, and it's back underway already. Moomin said he's not having any sick of the way people are overtaking me. I think if you saw your connection in that race, Moomin, then you'll understand what was going on there. But it was appalling. So that's just the word to sum it up. But there we go then. So Gordon out all over the back of the Alfa Romeo, then still a VT10 Ultra. The VSC has gone away very quickly indeed, and we are back underway already. So that was a very quick VSC, got it out of the way and out of our system then, and back underway then on lap 32 of 57. Kiki is still yet to pit then. He didn't choose, I don't think he was in the range of the pit lane entry to get himself into the box then under that VSC. So he has not had the option then to get himself into the box. Then 20 seconds now the gap between Vessia and Kiki Indigo in the fight then for the P2 position. Then with Vessia then down towards turn 1. Can he make the move? Don't think so. He's too far back then in towards turn 1. He's backing off. Then here comes Gordo then on the attack though into P4. Then down the main straight. He's got himself past the Alfa Romeo then into P4 then and back underway then into P4 as well then. Stretching his legs then in the McLaren. Then can he get himself a far enough gap now in this next lap then before DRS is re-enabled then for the Alfa Romeo? Then can he get himself over that 1 second boundary then to escape from VT10 Ultra in the Alfa Romeo? Then we'll have to wait and see. But this time he has made the move. Then he's got a 1/8 of a second gap then I think just about then to the Alfa Romeo already then. So it's stretching his legs very quickly indeed. 0.2 of a second then he needs to find then in the rest of this lap then to escape that DRS window. Then the VT10 Ultra knows that as well, that he's trying to push on to keep inside that 1 second window. Then Marky then almost back in the DRS then of the two ahead of him. Those hard compound tyres starting to phase in compared to the medium tyres ahead of him. Those two on the medium compound tyres might start to see that Williams looming a bit closer in the next lap or so. Oh God, sorry. Commentator's dream, isn't it? But there we go then. So Marky then is trying to get himself back into DRS range. Then VT10 Ultra is staying within that DRS range then of the McLaren of Gordo, which is great stuff indeed for him. Can he keep himself in contention then for potentially a podium place? Then if it goes his way, then we'll have to wait and see. Farf picks up another penalty. Then Farf, unfortunately, racking up the penalty. Then he's into the pit lane and after 16 laps then on the soft compound tyres. Moving the weather is bad. There we go then. I think the motor is bad for everybody around here, unfortunately. So VT10 Ultra is back up into P4, and that is that. Then he's got himself back up into contention then for that fourth place. Then of course that penalty will start to count his chickens, I think. Then very shortly, then Farfus onto a medium compound tyres. Then can he get to the end of the race then on those medium compound tyres? He's going to have to do 24 laps then on those mediums to get to the end. It's doable, but it's going to be very difficult at the end of that stint, I would imagine. Then R2 beat coming down the main straight. Then he's got Hassel for company as well. Then as we go in towards turn 1, then Hassel then trying to make a move then on the Hass, I should say, but not quite getting himself through. I think he's just got the fastest lap of the race as well then for the Mercedes team. Good stuff indeed. Serious Mushroom then is got himself back past Equaz now. Equaz on the hard compound tyres to the end of the Grand Prix. I think Serious Mushroom might be trying to go to the end of the Grand Prix from here as well on the medium compound tyres, but I would imagine the hard compound would be much better towards the end of this race then compared to the medium compound tyres then for the Ferrari. We'll have to wait and see, but that is that one so far, so good. For those drivers, unfortunately, only one retirement so far, and that was moving then into the wall then at sector 2 somewhere. I'm not quite sure where it was actually. To be fair, there's quite a lot of corners look the same, don't they? But there we go then. But there we are. So Sick as Muck now is in contention as well as soft compound tyres then on the Aston Martin, looking to get himself into the fight then with the pair ahead of him of Equaz and Serious Mushroom then into the pits. Pits comes Marky. It wasn't that shocking. But into the pits comes Marky then from P6 I should say, from the hard compound tyres. So he's decided to use the hards twice, I think. There's Marky. He's onto a set of what is it? It's onto a set of medium compound tyres to the end of the race here, and it's going to have to do 22 laps or so then on the medium compound tyres. Not quite sure what the Williams strategists are working out there, because here comes Kamara then on the back of his teammate Coupe. But I'm not quite sure what the Williams strategists are working on there, because Marky then has done about 18 laps twice on the hard compound tyres, and now is onto a set of medium compound tyres, and is going to have to do 23 laps then to the end of the race to get to the end of the race on those medium compound tyres. So interesting strategy call then. As Marky and Farfus in their battle, then Kaido picks up the fastest down the race, and good stuff from him. As we've got our race leader, then our pole sitter, then Akiki, has finally called it a day then on the hard compound tyres. He's done 35 laps then on those hard compound tyres, and is coming into the box then to call it a day finally then for this first scheduled stop then of this race. So that is him deciding that he's calling it a day finally then on the hard compound, and he is cruising down the pit lane now then, but I think he's going to lose out to both Vessia and to Indigo here, as he's going to be very slow then coming down the pit lane here. Here comes Indigo, then here comes Vessia, then they're back up into P1 and P2 respectively. Kiki coming out the pit lane now and is back underway. And he is now, down to P3, unfortunately for the Mercedes driver. But of course, he's going to be on much faster and much fresher tyres than the rest ahead of him as well, and behind him, to say the least as well. Gordo and VT10 Ultra then battling into turn 1 once again then as we go down the inside. Oh my goodness me, there's contact between the two of them there, and I don't think that was an opportunistic move. And again, Gordo and, oh my goodness me, they're going to go side by side for every corner, I think, in this lap, as Gordo has got the inside then for turn 4 then, but he's going to be slow out of turn 4 now. VT10 Ultra all over the back of him into turn 5, and now into turn 6 as well then, the hairpin then, as Gordo holds on to P4, but that was very close indeed. And now the McLaren then twitching then with the traction then out of the hairpin, and that is going to be exciting. The VT10 Ultra then in the Alfa Romeo then trying to get himself past that McLaren very quickly indeed. Serious Tickers Mucker's got himself past Equaz then into P14 on the soft compound tyres. Of course, Equaz I think going to the end of the race then, whereas Sick as Muck will probably have to make another pit stop. Same for Hungry Styles as well then in this race. The same for Vintage and for Martin then on very old medium compound tyres out there as well. Vessia I think has to come into the pit lane. Indigo could go to the end of the Grand Prix from here, but will he be able to go to the end of the Grand Prix from here? We'll have to wait and see. He's got another 20 laps to go. That could be very difficult indeed then. But of course, we saw Kiki do 35 laps then on the hard compound tyres, so it is possible. We'll have to wait and see how it's going to unfold then. Here comes VT10 Ultra on the back of Gordo once again then. DRS enabled then for the Alfa Romeo this time in towards turn 1. I think it's going to be a move before the braking zone this time, because it's very close indeed then with the DRS. Then he's already passed then in towards turn 1. Then he's got the move done, and back up into P4 as well. These two then resuming their fight then, as into the pits comes Coupe then from the hard compound tyres, and he's done 19 laps then, similar to his teammate then. The Williams car is not very nice on its hard compound tyres, it seems, as he has called it a day then on those those hard compound tyres before they reach lap 19 laps old. And he's going to have to do 20 laps at least then on the medium compound tyres or the soft compound tyres next to get to the end of the Grand Prix then. So interesting calls there. Maybe the medium compound tyre is the best tyre to be on then in this race, and is actually more durable than we think. Then we'll have to wait and see. Then here comes Farf then on the back of Markey, then down towards turn 4, and he can't get himself past the Williams then just yet, but he has to bide his time then into turn 5 and now turn 6. Then can he glide down the inside? No, he's too far back. Then he doesn't want to lose his front wing at the same time as well then, and very wise thinking then from the wise old head of Farf. Then good stuff. Out in front then, the gap is only 14th of a second between Vessia and Indigo. The gap now between Kiki and the top 2 is 1.7 seconds. Kaidal picks up a penalty as well. Unfortunately for Kaidal, then not going his way in this race then, but could potentially go back in his favour then. He's on the hard compound tyres to the end of the Grand Prix. There's some of the drivers then who might have to pit again. We'll have to wait and see as Camaro and Hassel then switching places. Then Camaro back into the top 10 as it stands there, but I think has to make another stop. Then VT10 Ultra then has done 16 laps on the medium compound tyres. He's into the pit lane already on those medium compound tyres. So interesting call there from the Alfa Romeo driver. Hassel picks up a penalty coming through the penultimate corner, and that is a lot of penalties racked up now for the Mercedes driver, unfortunately for him. So we'll have to wait and see how many penalties we're going to have to look at then in the next couple of laps there. We will look at the penalties very shortly, as of course we will have to try and determine where the finishing positions are going to be for those who with and without penalties as well. VT10 Ultra is onto the medium compound tyres. He's back out of the pit lane in P11. He is ahead of Sirius Mushroom then, as Sirius Mushroom then coming down the main straight then there in your screens then, but VT10 Ultra is already going through turn 1, so he's well ahead of the Ferrari as it stands, and trying to get himself back in contention. And he's onto a fresh set of medium compound tyres, but should make it to the end of the race very easily from here, or just about, I should say, because you can never guarantee it. But yeah, they're on. He's gone 5 lap fresher tyres compared to the rest of the field ahead of him. Of course, R2B is on the. Oh my goodness, what is that? That is a Mercedes. There's a Mercedes of Hassel then. Hassel's off the circuit there somewhere. Kamara Racer trying to go down the inside then into sector 2, and Hassel's had an issue somewhere. They're not quite sure what's going on then for the Mercedes driver, but he's thrown himself back underway just in time to hold on to that P6 position. Yellow flags then for Farf. It's a virtual safety car again then, and where's Farf gone? He's trying to get himself back on the circuit then, is Farf, but he has got himself back on the circuit now. No, he hasn't, as he's been passed by Sirius Mushroom now as well. Sirius Mushroom has got himself back through. Farf then is dropped down, then he has lost his front wing, I think, there is Farf. And that is going to be very costly indeed. Gordo's in the pit lane, and Sam Boone is in the pit lane as well then. Vessia then has not pitted, and of course Kiki has stayed out. He's on much fresher tyres than those two ahead of him as well. Gordo onto the soft compound tyres. That is going to be one tall order to get to the end of the Grand Prix from here. Sam Boone then onto a set of medium compound tyres. More realistic, I think, then R2B is carried on then into the pits. Comes Kamara Racer, then he's calling it a day then on his medium compound tyres. But I think we've got the VSC coming in very shortly as well then, as we go out of the pit lane for Sam B. Green onto a medium compound tyre. VT10 Ultra on the soft compound tyres. Unfortunately, that has cost him dearly because he was battling with Gordo. No, yes, he was. Yeah, he is. Gordo's got the drive-through penalty for Kaidel as well. Then Kaidel has had a horrible race out there, unfortunately for Kaidel. It has gone from bad to worse then for the Alpine driver as well, as he comes out ahead then of Farf out of the pit lane as well. Then unfortunately for Kaidel, it's not been very good then for Kaidel this race. That drive-through penalty is going to be very costly indeed. He could bounce back. We'll have to wait and see. There's still quite a lot of laps to go here. There's 18 laps to go then at the end of this one. Farf coming out of the pit lane now. He's onto a set of hard compound tyres to the end of the Grand Prix. And away he goes. Good stuff indeed. Then out in front, here we go. Then this is the battle we want to see. Then there's 3 of them, and Kiki is on much fresher tyres than the likes of Indigo in the AlphaTauri, and from Vessia, his rival, then in the McLaren. Here we go down the main straight. Then here comes the Mercedes, and all over the back then of the. Oh my goodness me! There's almost contact between the two of them. Then, and of course Indigo trying to force his way through. There's contact from Indigo again. Then, and Indigo has spun himself around. Then, unfortunately, and he's lost out. Then I think he's lost out. He's not lost out any places then to Gordo though, but he's lost out to the top 2 massively indeed as they go filtering through then into the first couple of corners as well now. But Indigo then very ambitious then trying to go diving down the inside then on the Mercedes. Well, sorry, not on the McLaren, sorry, who was on the outside then, and they got Sam. Well, he didn't get sandwiched, unfortunately, but he got himself all over the back, then all into the side then of the McLaren, and Kiki then trying to get himself back through, into the race lead, that is, but he's trying to get himself through past Vessia then, and those fresh medium compound tyres. Then there's no contest then for the Mercedes driver then on the back of this McLaren. Then as we go through the penultimate corner, then not the penultimate corner, so we go through the hairpin then into sector 3. And it's starting to get a bit messy out there now. I think Indigo then made a very ambitious move there, but he thankfully didn't come off too badly, and he lost out 1 place in the end then, but he unfortunately then has demoted himself down 4 seconds behind the top 2 as well then. But there we go. 40 laps complete at the end of this lap time as well then. So there we are, then we are done and dusted. And Kaidel has served his drive-through penalty, then he's dropped down behind Farf now as he come out the pit lane. Here comes Kiki then on the back of Vessia then for the race lead, then once again reclaims the race lead, then on to lap 41 then of 57, then 16 laps remain then at the end of this one as well. Then there's a Red Bull in the background, I think that's Vintage, is it? Yes, it is Vintage. Vintage has been lapped then by the top two, unfortunately. Same for Martin as well then. Indigo is all over the back then of Martin, then there is Indigo in P3 then, but dropping down after that spin, unfortunately very costly indeed. Then Farf and Kaidel then switching places, then Kaidel up into P16. Is he ahead then of Farf? Then yes, he is then up into P16. Then Vintage has picked up another penalty, unfortunately, but Vintage is costly indeed. Then Equaz, Serious Mushroom, then R2 Beat, Indigo and Kiki are the only drivers remaining without any penalties. That's 4 out of 19 drivers. Then everybody else has got penalties added onto their race time. There is the penalty situation. Then Vessia has got 3 seconds, so that is going to be very costly indeed then for Vessia. Potentially Indigo could get himself back in that 3-second range then, and get himself into P2 then in the podium places. We'll have to wait and see, but we'll have to find out then. Of course, Marky then has got 3 seconds, but he's got 12 seconds for Hassel then, so he will gain that place mathematically as well as it stands. But I think he wants to get himself through on track. Then R2B can gain on all the drivers around him as well then. As Hassel has lost out to Marky then into sector 2, so Marky now up into P5, but technically RTP then could promote himself up in the order then up 3 places if he gets himself in that 3-second range of Gordo. But Gordo's got a nice gap then to the drivers around him then for the time being. Then Gordo was in a bit of no man's land, but we'll have to wait and see if that will be the case at the end of the race. So that is 15 laps remain here in the Losail International Circuit then, but RTP then looking good in this race then in the Haas then. Good stuff indeed from R2B. Then he's found some form then in the Haas car then in the last few races. Then of course after his podium then in Saudi Arabia then a few rounds ago, then he's been kicking on with the point scoring positions. Then has the Haas driver there after a bit of a difficult start to the campaign then for the Haas driver indeed. Quaz picks up a penalty. That is bad news indeed. And I was saying he has no penalties, then he's picked up one as we go through the final couple of corners. Then R2B up into P6 then ahead of Hassel then, and chasing down Marky on those hard compound tyres. Blimey, that is the penalty situation. There's lots of penalties all over the place, and Serious Mushroom then could benefit quite significantly there from the penalty situation for the three drivers ahead of him as well. Then it could promote him up into P7 as it stands, but we'll come back to that. It all depends on the tyre situations as well. Then whose tyres are going to hold on to the end of the race, whose tyres might not make it to the end of the race. We'll have to wait and see then. The likes of Vessia and Indigo, I think, might have to pit again. Potentially Vessia does very shortly indeed as well, to be fair. We'll have to wait and see if he's going to go on for a set of soft compound tyres then to the end of the Grand Prix in the near future. Then 4 seconds the gap to the race leader of Kiki, who is stretching his legs out in front. Then he's looking very comfortable indeed. Then Indigo is in the pit lane, so Indigo calling it a day then on the hard compound tyres. So he's decided to go for a strategy change very quickly indeed then. Lap 43 has commenced, then into the pits comes Indigo, then he's calling it a day then on the hard compound tyres, and that is that then for the AlphaTauri driver. Then those hard compound tyres are done then on that car, and what's he going to go on to is the question. Is it mediums or is it softs then to the end of the race? We will find out now. It is medium compound tyres, so interesting stuff indeed. Then he's calling it a day then on those mediums, on those hard, sorry. And he's back underway. Gordo onto the soft compound tyres. He's done 4 laps on those soft compound tyres. Where is Indigo going to come out in this battle as well? Then he's going to be very close indeed between himself and R2B as we go down towards turn 1. Then R2B ahead now into turn 1 we go. Then Hassel then all over the back then of the AlphaTauri. There's going to be rubbing is racing, I think, then between those two. Then they're not too much worried about getting involved in it with the racing. It doesn't look like then these two, as Hassel and Indigo have both had spins and making ambitious moves at certain points of the race then, but they've both got themselves through unscathed. Then Indigo onto a fresh set of medium compound tyres will be flying to the end of this Grand Prix. I've no doubt about that. Then we'll have a look at the telemetry situation then for the drivers as well then, because fuel might be an issue then towards the end of this race. Then Kiki and Vessia are okay, same for Gordo, same for Marky and R2B then, so it looks like everyone's nobody's got any issues. Then Hassel has got some issues with fuel. It looks like that fuel light flashing then for the Mercedes car, which is bad news. Sandy Green's okay, same as the VT10 Ultra, then same for Serious Mushroom and Equaz. Sticker's Buck is okay, Kamara is okay, Coop's okay, Hungry Styles and Kaido are okay then. Farf is not okay then. So Farf and Hassel then have got issues with fuel, it looks like, out there. But everybody else seems to be all right out there as well. Then Vessia is in the pit lane onto a set of soft compound tyres, and away he goes. Where will he come out in relation to his teammate this time then? As Gordo is flying down the main straight. Here comes Gordo. Then he's on to P2 now. As here comes, he goes past his teammate who's trundling down the pit lane here. Here comes Markey as well. Then can Markey get himself into the podium places there? And Vessia coming out of the pit lane now. It's going to be close indeed between the Williams. As Indigo's got himself past the Haas, then Markey around the outside, then into turn 1, he's got himself up into P3, Indigo back up into P5, then ahead of R2B, then who's battling with Hassel. There's contact between the two of them as we go into turn 1 and turn 2, and Hassel just needs to keep it clean then, because those, like I said, that fuel light is going to be his main problems, I think, then towards the end of this Grand Prix, not the cars around him, and he needs to try and get himself into that green status on the fuel levels as we go into turns 4 and 5 then, as Hassel then is lining up a move then into the hairpin as well, then he's too far back, unfortunately, then on R2B. Then R2B is in a good spot, I think, here. No penalties then for the Haas driver, but I don't want to curse him because I usually do. That's what I've done to Equaz as well then, unfortunately. But Equaz then is on the brink then of the points pair positions as it stands as well. Then we'll have to wait and see if he can get himself into that range at the end of the race. Then Indigo is now within range then of Vessia, then on the soft compound tyres Vessia is, but he is going to be trying to get himself past Markey then very quickly indeed as well. Markey is on older medium compound tyres then, as we got Samby Green and Hassel switching places. Then into P7 goes the Alpha Tauri then as well. Then both the Alpha Tauri looking good in the points pair positions as it stands, but of course penalties permitting that is as well. So I think Mark is going to be under pressure in 2 here, because here we go into the final corner then. Oh my goodness me, Indigo then all over the back then of Vessia then, and go into the final corner then as well. Then here we go down the main straight as well, flying down towards turn 1 then. Mark is being passed by Vessia. Here comes the Alpha Tauri then of Indigo then in towards turn 1 as well then. Diving down the inside, looking to go around the outside now as well on those fresh medium compound tyres then, compared to Markey's 10-lap old medium compound tyres. Can he get himself through is the question, and he needs to get himself through very quickly indeed then if he wants to keep up with Vessia as well then. Into turn 3, into turn 4, Markey's ERS light flashes away then to show he's not got much battery to play with. Then into turn 4, almost contact between the diffuser then of the Alpha Tauri. There is contact then, as Indigo pushing too hard then has put himself under pressure as well, rather than doing the opposite then to Markey. Then unfortunately that has cost Markey and Indigo a bit of time as well then, both of those two battling a bit too hard then. I think Indigo pushing on a bit too hard as well then after making that mistake into turn 1. It's rattled him a bit there, unfortunately, but he needs to keep a cool head then and get himself back in this race, and he can do so in the next lap or 2 as we go once again then very close to the back of that Williams car. They've lost 2 seconds then to Vessia, who's sprinted off on those soft compound tyres, but of course he would probably do that anyway, because those soft compound tyres are going to be very quick at this stage of this race, and potentially could phase back into Indigo's favour. Then we'll have to wait and see. Of course, no penalties then for the Alpha Tauri. Well, that's going to be a factor later on in this race, at the end of this race, that is, I should say. Into the final corner we go then, is the DRS then. Oh my goodness me, and again Indigo into the back of the Williams car. I don't think he's realised that the Williams car is not on the same freshness of tyres, and he's not got the same grip then as the Williams car as we go in towards turn 1 once again then, and there's contact between Indigo and Markey then as we go into turn 1, and there we go then. That is exactly what we don't want to see then from anybody there. So Markey then has cost himself a place in this race, and Indigo has hopefully not got any damage from that as well. Markey's retired on the track and left the session, so that's fantastic stuff indeed. Brilliant. Okay, grand. Well, there we go then. That's how to ruin a race then, guys. Unfortunately then, Indigo has had soldiered on in here, but that is that then, I think, for Markey then. He is done and dusted then, as VT10 Ultra has passed Hassel then. Hassel's had an issue as well then at the exit of turn 5, and has got himself back underway then. But unfortunately then, this race then, from the likes of Markey's and Indigo's point of view, has not been going very well then indeed. So here we are then. Right, well that's how we're going to play it, unfortunately then, for those two. But unfortunately for Markey, he's out. Well, fortunately for Markey, unfortunately for everyone else's case, he's out of the race. Lap 47 has commenced then. We've got 10 laps to go then in this race as well then. So we are cracking on then with what we've got left then here. R2B then is into P7 now, and he has got himself into the DRS range of VT10 Ultra then. These two, well, VT10 Ultra had a fantastic race out there, to be fair, but R2B then is all over the back now of the Alfa Romeo then on those hard compound tyres. He could be getting to the end of the race. 24 laps or so to go on those hard compound tyres from this stage to the end of the Grand Prix as well. That's doable on those hards as well. So we'll have to wait and see if he can get to the end of the Grand Prix as we get ourselves down towards turn 1. Can he make the move then on the inside then into turn 1? He's too far back to make that lunge and stays behind in P7 for the time being. Here comes Serious Mushroom then on the charge, and he's up into P8 then ahead of Hassel then as well. Then into turn 1, we've got some action in the background as well. Equaz then up into P10 ahead of Sick as Muck then on those soft compound tyres. They might start to be, oh dear. It seems like a lot of drivers then having issues with turn 1, but there we go then. Sick as Muck then having those soft compound tyres. They're still going very nicely, but I think they're going to be well, they're not going to be able to make it to the end of the Grand Prix, I don't think, from here. Surely that's going to be too much of a task then for the Aston Martin. We'll have to wait and see then. We'll have to find out as Kamara Race has got to do 18 laps on those soft compound tyres as well then for the Alpine. So it's going to be quite a tall order then for both those drivers, I think. Same for Hungry Stars then in P14. Then we might have to come into the pit lane very shortly as well then. We will wait and see. But RTB then is all over the back now of VT10 Ultra, the closest battle in the top 10 as it stands, I think. Yeah, there we go. Cooper's picked up a penalty, unfortunately for Coop. That is bad news for him. It could cost him a place in the top 10. Yes, it could do indeed. Although 27 seconds for Sick as Muckman and 12 seconds for Hassel, it might not be too bad in the end then, as Hassel's actually got 15 seconds now as well. He's picking up another penalty then for his troubles then in Sector 3 as we go on to lap 48. Is it 48 or 49? 48 I think it is. So we'll cross the line in to start off at lap 48. Then here comes the Hass then of RTB then down towards the inside of turn 1. Then he's got to move then with DRS then into P6 then ahead of the Alfa Romeo. Then is he, oh dear, or is he not? I'm not quite sure. Yes, he is ahead. Then he's up into P6 I should say. And that is that then. So good stuff indeed. R2B then is dropped. Wait, sorry, I thought R2B was through then. He's not. He's VT10 Ultra has battled back then into P6 and holding on to that position very nicely indeed. Then a Serious Mushroom then all over the back then of Hassel now into P9. Then he's been passed by the Mercedes, repassed by the Mercedes. Kamara's got himself past Equaz. Then Equaz starting to struggle then. Not quite sure if he is struggling out there or if he's just letting the Camaro and the Sick as Muck battle away then instead of putting himself in danger. But we go through the hairpin then of Sector 2 then Equaz dropping down to P12 as it stands then out in front. What about out in front? Out in front is quite comfortable indeed, to be fair. Kiki's having a great time out there. He's done 13 laps then on his medium compound tyres. He's got, what is that, 8 laps to go then at the end of lap 49 then, 50 to 57. So he is cruising now onto lap 49 then at 57. He's got 9 laps to go then, including this one. But we'll wait and see. Then here comes Vessia. Then he's caught up to his teammate of Gordo. Gordo's got a penalty under his belt as well now, unfortunately for Gordo. That is going to be very costly indeed as we go through into turns 1 and 2. There's no team orders just yet then from the McLarens, but I think it's going to be quite easy then as R2B then is trying to make an easy move then on VT10 Ultra. We've got yellow flags then for Hassel then on the main straight. Then he's had an issue somewhere as he goes back onto the main straight there, but he's lost the car somewhere and now he's spun the car out as well then, so he needs to make sure he gets himself back underway and keeps his head there. Good stuff indeed. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened then to the Mercedes driver. But that is he's back underway now. But I think those old medium compound tyres are getting a bit too worse for wear then for the Mercedes car as we go into turn 1 there. But he's got himself back underway. I think the soft compound then to the end of the Grand Prix is his best bet. Then, of course, the fastest lap point, of course, is available then to anybody who finishes the race, who is still in the race, that is, and has set that fastest lap point. Doesn't matter what position you're in then. You could be you could be P18 because you can't be P20 now. But you could be P18 then and have that fastest lap then at the end of the 57 laps then and still get that point. You just need to finish the race and get to the checkered flag indeed in one piece as well then, that is, as Hassel picks up another penalty as well for his troubles out there, so he's not having a great time then for the penalties then and for the spins it looks like then for Hassel. Then Kaidel picks up a penalty as well. Then Vessia and Gordo switching places. Then Vessia has taken that position away from his teammate now as we go down towards turn 1. Yellow flag then, I think it's for Hassel again then. No, it's not, it's for somebody else then. It's an Alpine then of Kaidel then into turn 5, trying to get himself back underway. It's a safety car here, and there's a safety car because Hassel then has caused a safety car then for his antics out there as well. Then he can't get the car back underway then either for the Mercedes driver, so he is not having a great time out there. Safety car has ruined this race then, so there we go. But lap 50 or 57 then, and yeah, brilliant stuff indeed. Right then. bother then. Unfortunately, we've had the 2 reserves then just taking people out and learning people's races, so that was they're not going to be taking part in this in the rest of the season at least. And so unfortunately, that is then done and dusted. But there we go then. Kiki then onto the soft compound tyres. I think we're going to have a lot of pit activity then very quickly indeed. Then Gordo is also in the pit lane as well, but I don't think he's going to lose any time then to his rivals of Indigo, unless Indigo decides to stay out, of course, then. But that would be quite ambitious then compared to those who are going to be on much fresher soft compound tyres around him. Out of the pit lane, that comes Kiki. Then I think Vintage was... I don't know why Vintage pitted there, because unfortunately he would have been able to get himself back on the lead lap. There's a Mercedes without a front wing there. There's a Mercedes without a front wing there, and that's Kiki. No, it's not. He's got a front wing. I don't know what I'm talking about now. Oh, it was a Mercedes of Hassel then who'd crashed out on purpose there. Never mind. But there we go then. The safety car has caught up to the... the race leader has caught up to the safety car queue. And we can get ourselves back on the way then. Soft compound tyres for everybody now then to the end of the Grand Prix. And that'll be that then. We'll be about, 5 or 6 lap sheet out then. Yeah, am I still laps as Vintage? Yes, you are, unfortunately. I think you did. But I don't know if you did stay out or not. But you need to stay out another lap then to get yourself back on the lead lap then to unfortunately, that is being costly indeed. Then here comes Equaz and Serious Mushroom, then is out in P8. Then it looks like then he's ahead then of the Alpine of Kamara Racer. Yes, he is. Have a look at the penalty situation there as well, because it's going to be very costly now for anybody with penalties. Then it's going to be great news for Indigo, for R2 Beat then, and for Serious Mushroom then, because the safety car will bunch up the pack very quickly indeed. And that'll be that then for the rest of this race, I think, pretty much. Martin in the pit lane as well now. Vintage then unfortunately has been lapped there. As you can see, he's right behind the Mercedes then of Kiki. Kaidel was also in the fight, but unfortunately these two then have been lapped as well. And so it's a shame they can't get themselves. I don't know if you can just drive past, but I wouldn't risk it, to be fair, because I don't know what's going to happen. Unfortunately for Vintage and Kaidel, they've both been lapped as well. And so I mean, Kiki can move off the track, Vintage, yes, but I don't think the safety car will. So either way, you'll still be behind the safety car, unfortunately. So there we go, Martin in the pit lane. Martin has got himself out. He's almost a lap down then, but he is still on the lead lap just about then, which is close stuff indeed. Can he get himself into the fight then before the safety car goes back into the pit lane is the question. We'll have to wait and see then. So Vintage has gone off the track there, but I'm not quite sure if Kiki is listening to yourself there, sir. But either way, the problem isn't Kiki really, it's the safety car itself. Unfortunately, I don't know, unless you can drive past all of them, then I wouldn't. I don't know. I might just disqualify you if you go past the safety car. So I don't know. So I'm sorry, Vess here asking for the lap cars to get out of the way again. I'm not in control of that, so you've got to just deal with it, I'm afraid. Same as in a 50% race, it's not any different. You don't have to complain about it, you just have to deal with it, unfortunately. Father's in the pit lane then, so he's onto a set of soft compound tyres to the end of the Grand Prix as well here. And that'll be that then for all the pit stops, I think, hopefully. And we can crack on then and get to the end of the Grand Prix from here, and that'll be that for Qatar done and dusted, which will be nice. There we go then. Unfortunately, there's the 2 reserves then who have cost anybody, to be fair, but they've cost themselves a place in this race then. Marky and Hassel out of the Norman Ninja retiring then after the internet issues that he was facing as well. And so there's 3 retirements in from the Qatar Grand Prix. Other than that, to be fair, up until about lap 45, it's been a fantastic Grand Prix and really enjoyable stuff. Then good racing then from everybody as well then. But there we go. Some people then just can't do 100% racing, it seems. There we are. Kiki then is in the race lead, and he will be restarting the race very soon. I don't think he'll be restarting it at the end of this lap though, but he'll be restarting it at the end of lap 53, I believe. So there we go, and we'll wait for the races to get ourselves back underway then. In the meantime, I might as well just go and have a drink break. I've got to stay here and pretend I'm confident. So there we go. Kiki then, of course, the race leader then is going to have the pressure then from his McLaren rivals. Then both of them have got penalties there. Vintage is back in the pit then, unfortunately. Vintage, I think he's been listening to the stream and decided to call it today on those soft compound tyres. Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, the only thing Vintage can do now is go for that fastest lap point at the end of the race. Of course, DRS will be enabled at the end of the Grand Prix as well. Then we're going to have hopefully 3 or 4 laps remaining, which means DRS will be available for the last couple of laps or so. Of course, there's only one DRS zone. I've only mentioned it on lap 53 out of 57, but we've got one DRS zone around here, but it is on the main straight. There is not going to be any DRS really available on lap 57, although if you are very close to the car ahead, then you might be able to get them to the line with some DRS there, but we'll have to wait and see. But really, it's only going to be available for lap 56, I would imagine. We'll wait when we get ourselves restarted then, as we wait for the Red Bull and the Vintage and to catch up with the queue, unfortunately. It's I think a bit of a damp squid, I don't know which one it is. Damp squid something to the end of this Grand Prix because of people just not being able to get themselves to the end of the race. That is, unfortunately, those people then will be removed then from the reserve pool then from the racing at all. To be fair, unfortunately, because they are costing people their places or other people places there in their races. As Kaidel and Vessia, I'm not quite sure what is going on between those two as well. Then they seem to be having their own issues as well, which is absolutely fantastic. There we are then. Right, I think it'll be in the end of this lap then, which is good stuff, so we can crack on then. 4 laps remaining then, so DRS will be available from lap 56 onwards. So I think actually you're going to have DRS only for the main straight then on lap 57 in that case, because of course DRS is enabled on lap 56, but you can't use it then down the main straight, which is a bit of a shame. Safety car is coming in this lap now, so that is good news indeed. There we go then. Safety car will be turning off his lights and getting himself back in the pit lane as quickly as possible, and we can crack on then for the remainder of the 57 laps around here then. So good stuff indeed. And right then, we are getting ourselves through then into the final couple of corners then, as a safety car is going to be parking his way into the box, and there he goes then around the right hander then of the pit entry. And now Kiki can get himself underway then, and he has gone, and no he hasn't, yes he has gone, and he has gone now. Good stuff indeed then. Alright, back underway then for this race then. Lap 54 will commence now. Sick as Muck picks up a penalty then, going wide at the final corner, I can imagine that is, as Indigo has got himself past before the start finish straight as well then. There's an Alpine of Kaido, I think, getting out of the way then of the fighters coming through. Yellow flag in sector 1, that is for Kaido's car. I think they're just getting themselves out of the battle then, as Coop then and Sick as Muck then going side by side through turns 1 and 2 now. Kaido's got a 10-second penalty for exceeding track limits, I should say. Then he's got himself back underway once again. Then he's got himself another issue. Then Coop has got himself past Sick as Muck then into P11 now, up into the range, then trying to chase down those who are battling for the top 10 as it stands out here. As we've got all sorts of battle then resuming. There's R2B, and we've got yellow flag then for Hungry Styles as well. And Hungry Styles is off the circuit at the back of the field then. Hopefully he can get himself moving, please, because otherwise it's going to be another need a safety car or VSC. There we go then. And unfortunately then we've got more issues. Then we've got yellow flags then for a Haas as well. Then Farf is going slowly out there as well. So unfortunately for Farf, then he's got some more issues out there. So he is having some sort of problem out there. As Farf in the Haas, technical difficulties then. I'm not sure if it's fuel related. It's not fuel related, so it's something else then for Farf. Good stuff indeed. As we crack on then with the remainder of this race then. 54 laps completed onto lap 57 then, as we go down towards lap 55 then, lagging then for Vessia then in the background. Great stuff indeed. Farf has been passed by Styles now, and I think it was something between those two. Kiki set the fastest lap of the race then onto lap 55 then. 3 laps remaining here in Qatar as we get ourselves underway then. Sam B. Green and Gordo battling away then. Sam B. Green and Gordo side by side. Gordo is making contact then, turning into the AlphaTauri there into turn 2, as well as we go through into turn 3 now, and the AlphaTauri is ahead then. He's up into P4 and now ahead of Gordo as well then, as we go into turn 4 now, up into P4 into turn 4 into turn 5, then down to P5 for Gordo as it stands as well then. But that is the situation, and of course, like I said, with the safety car, that's what ruins the races, unfortunately. That is the way it goes. Of course will be dealt with then after the race as well then. 6 seconds then for Sam B. Green, then there is your penalty situation then for the drivers all around you, as we go into the twilight then of this Grand Prix here, onto the last couple of laps then of the Grand Prix as well then. Fantastic stuff indeed then as we cross the line. Then I think R2B and Mushroom are going to be very happy with this safety car indeed, aren't they? But unfortunately it came at the wrong circumstance as well then. But there we go then. So there we are. Unfortunately for Moomin and for Marquis and Paris, they're out of the race then. They can't compete in this Grand Prix at the end of this one. Sickers up and something on the penalty, and 40 seconds smoke. Then I think that is about 35 seconds of penalties at least. Yellow flags in the background again. Then for an Alpine of Kaidel. Then Kaidel's had a horrible race out there, but he's still going in this one, which is fair play to him. Lap 56 has commenced now as we get ourselves back underway. And well, I'm getting tired, to be fair, if you couldn't tell. Like I was saying, from lap 45 onwards, up to lap 45 on, from lap 1 to lap 45, it was absolutely fantastic. Maybe even lap 40, I'll say 48. But yeah, it was absolutely fantastic racing, and unfortunately I think a few people then have forgotten how to race towards the end of the Grand Prix here as well. Vessier has lost out then the 1 second window then to Kiki as we go through sector 2 now as well. Indigo all over the back then of the McLaren as we head into sector 2, lap 56 then for the final time in this race. We'll go, well, it's the penultimate time, sorry, in this race. We're going through sector 2 now as well, onto the last stint now as well. And good stuff indeed so far, so good out there as well. Kiki is looking strong out there as we've got a Haas going slowly. Then Vintage has got a 3-second penalty then for something out there, unfortunately for Vintage. Then VT10 Ultra has got another 3-second penalty. Yellow flags all over the place as well then for an Alpine and for a Haas then, so they need to get themselves sorted hopefully and back under the way. Is almost all over the back then of Gordo. Gordo's got that ERS like flashing. I think DRS has been enabled then, so they have got DRS then already. Never mind, ignore what I was saying. Then they have got DRS for 1 lap then, and they have no, Vessier has been passed by Gordo, and Vessier being passed by Indigo. Gordo was trying to get himself past Samby Green, but couldn't quite get himself past the AlphaTauri then into turns 1 and 2. VT10 Ultra then is yellow flags for the Haas once again. Then as we go through, then can we get a Massey in here? Says Gordo. Unfortunately not. Then as if we could have red flagged it, then we could have done probably. But either way, it would still be a detriment to people's races as well. And, yellow flags for a Haas out there as well. Then as we get ourselves onto the final lap then of this Grand Prix. Then just making sure you keep your head then is the next phase of this Grand Prix as well. Then as we get to the final lap, then the final couple of sectors, then sector 2 then underway then for the final time here in Qatar then for tonight's 100% race. Then it's been, like I said, an absolutely epic race then for the first 48 laps or so then, and then unfortunately ruined by a late safety car there as well. But everyone onto the soft compound tyres for the final few laps here in Qatar. But at the moment then Kiki then looking strong out there for the race win. Then if he can hold it together, then of course penalty situations then will come into play. But we'll wait and see then what happens. And if he keeps it clean then through the last corner, then he has won this race, I think. But we'll have to find out then as we cross the line then as we go through into lap 57 then for the final time. Then here comes Kiki in the Mercedes then to win the... Yes, he has. Here comes Kiki in the Mercedes then to win the Qatar Grand Prix. A fantastic race indeed then from the Mercedes driver then from pole position to race win then for Mercedes, and great stuff indeed then from Kiki. Then Indigo P2 in the end then, great result from him. R2 beating P3, well done to him as well. Sirius Russian P4, fantastic result. Vessier P5, Gordo P6, then Sandy Green in P7, VT10 Ultra in P8, then Ekpaz P9, Coupe in P10 is your top 10 as it stands. Then Kamara Racer in P11, then Martin P12, then Sickers Mark P13, Hungry Stars in Vintage in P16, then Kaidel then will cross the line in P17. Fantastic stuff indeed. Well, that is your race done and dusted. Yeah, like I said, absolutely fantastic and brilliant racing for probably about, I could say 90% of that race. There was brilliant stuff and thoroughly enjoyable. So well done to all the drivers then who got to the finish line. That is the most important thing, of course, in 100% racing, in any racing, to be fair. You need to get to the finish line because that is where you get some points, to get some rewards, that is. But well done indeed then, Favre and Hungry Styles then crossing the line now to finish off the race then. Well done to those drivers then at least getting to the finish line as well. Then I think Favre had some sort of issues then, some technical difficulties then on the final couple of laps there, but he has got himself to the checkered flag nonetheless. Gordo said that was painful, so unfortunately for Gordo, hopefully he is relieved of the pain now, as there is Kiki. He's fallen over then on the podium, but he's got himself back up then. P1 then from pole position then for the Mercedes driver, then an AlphaTauri then of Indigo in P2, And R2 beat then a fantastic podium from him as well then in the Haas, then keeping it clean with no penalties as well. Like I was saying before we started the race, then that is going to be paramount. Then those who keep it clean with the penalties and keep it clean in the race as well, then are going to profit at the end, and they did so, especially then those with no penalties as well. The top three, no penalties at all then. Serious Mushroom in P4 as well, no penalties. So those are the 4 drivers that actually got to the end without any penalty situations at all then. So Kiki then takes the win and the fastest lap and the pole position. Result indeed then for Mercedes. Indigo P2 in the AlphaTauri, then Haas in P3 then for R2B. Good stuff indeed. Serious Mushroom P4 potentially could get himself into the range then of the top 3 of the standings as well. We'll have to wait and see. Vessier in P5 then, Gordo P6, Sam B. Green in P7. VT10 Ultra in P8, then Equaz P9, then Coupe in P10, Kamara Racer in P11, then Martin P12, Sickers Muck P13, Hungry Stars P14, Farf in P15, Vintage and Kaitel P16 and P17. Unfortunately, Hassel, Markey and Moomin all DNF from this Grand Prix. So that was that then. Brilliant stuff indeed. We'll get the interviews underway hopefully as well then. So I'm not quite sure if they can hear me or not. We'll have to just give us a shout if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
I can hear you. Good stuff indeed.
I can hear you.
Right then, we've got our race winner then, Kiki, from pole position to the checkered flag. Well, to the checkered flag, not necessarily in the race lead, but you did a fantastic job there as well. I have to say, absolutely brilliant stuff indeed then from yourself in the in this race. And can you just take us through your most fond memory of that Grand Prix?
Not getting no penalties. That was it. I had 2 warnings, and then when Indigo was behind me the last couple of laps, I was absolutely crapping myself. I was like, oh no. Then obviously because through the second sector at the end, it's so easy to get penalties.
And you got yourself a pole position. You got yourself the Grand Slam, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. You got the pole position, you got the race win, and you got the fastest lap as well. So I think you're the first driver. I'm pretty sure you're the first driver in the 100% league. I think you might be the first driver in the ALR season this season to get the Grand Slam. So how do you feel about that?
Did you not watch your points yesterday?
No, I didn't.
Did the same thing in there?
Oh, well, there we go then. Never mind, you've done it twice in the same night, or the same 24 hours then, pretty much. So, fantastic result indeed then. But no, you've done a great job then here in the Qatar race. Is that going to translate then into your Bronze Grand Prix next week?
Hopefully, but obviously, like, Jay Hings and Brooksy are fast, but it's a 100% race, and obviously I had Indigo behind me pretty much the first stint, and yeah, it was a good battle with him.
And you got yourself the race win again. So now you're promoting yourself very quickly up the standings. Do you think you might be in contention for that, for the top 3 potentially? I think you're going to be somewhere around the range of P5, P6 in the standings at this point.
Maybe, but obviously you need to think I'm in a Mercedes, or obviously other people might be in the slower cars, so it's a lot easier for me to go up the ranks than them.
Well, fantastic job nonetheless, and very modest indeed as well. So good stuff indeed. Your race winner then, Kiki, then here in Qatar. Well done to the Mercedes driver as well. We've got Indigo in P2 then in the AlphaTauri then, and like Kiki was saying, then you were quite close in the first stint for the first 25-30 laps almost there. Were you just biding your time? Were you just saving some ERS, saving some fuel behind him, or were you just trying to keep up then at the end of that stint as well?
Well, the first stint, majority of it was trying to save fuel because, like an idiot, I didn't put enough fuel in the car, only about 2 laps, and that wasn't nearly enough. But if it wasn't for those virtual safety cars and the safety car itself, I wouldn't have made it to the end. So that was a blessing in disguise. But yeah, the first stint, trying to keep up with Kiki there, not to spent the whole time looking at his rear wing, but at the same time trying to stay in his DRS to save fuel. But obviously he was pushing very hard on those hardcore power tries to get me out of DRS, so I had to use the ERS2 and the fuel to keep up with him. So yeah, it was a lose-lose situation. But when I pitted onto the medium compound tyres, I used B. Veziot for a DRS to try to save fuel. The whole time I was lifting and coasting right behind him to save fuel, because if I didn't do that, I would have ran out of it. So yeah, that was very important in this stage of the race. So fuel really did cost me around here in Qatar.
I think it was. It wasn't a case for yourself. It was a case for quite a few drivers out there as well. To be fair, so it's the nature of the circuit, isn't it? I suppose we've seen that in the normal 50% races we've done around here as well before, especially last season in ALR as well. So it's part of the circuit, part of something we've got to all think about. But you did a great job then of getting yourself to the checkered flag. It sounds like in the fuel situation there. You came out behind Vessia, like you said, but did you expect to be behind the McLaren, because he was quite a margin away behind when you did actually make your pit stop?
Yeah, to be honest, I was slowing down at the pit lane exit for him to catch up and overtake me because, that's the only reason. Well, yeah, he was catching up, of course. I think I was on fresher hardcore power tyres compared to his mediums because he pitted earlier on, going for that two-stop strategy from medium, soft, I think he did. And it turned out to be a good strategy for me, actually, because the tyres weren't so bad around here. But, yeah, I slowed down the pit lane exit so I could get behind him and just lift a coaster the whole time. That's what I was doing. Then when Kiki pitted, I was looking at the gap the whole time, and I saved a lot of EOS. I saved a bit of fuel. It wasn't much though, but it was enough to try and keep going if I could. And once Kiki caught up, that's when I tried to overtake Vezier, but it failed. But the problem was, I don't know if Vezier moved to the right as I was about to overtake, or he lagged, because he was lagging throughout the whole race. So it was kind of hard for me to judge. And towards the penultimate lap, when I was behind him, he lagged in the final corner, so I had to slam on the brakes, but he teleported forward, so it cost me a bit of time. So I had to watch out for Vezzi's lag at the same time. So yeah, it would have been a good overtake the plan was to overtake Vezia, then try and keep Kiki behind me at the same time, then let Kiki go and try and stay in his DRS once he overtook me on that straight. But obviously I couldn't continue that plan because of the spin in turn one. So I'm not quite sure if it was lag or if he moves to the right as I was turning right to overtake him. It was a very late move if it was, but we'll have to find out soon.
Well, either way, you still got yourself a good result then, so you have to take that as well then for AlphaTauri as well. I'm sure they're pretty happy with you. So congratulations then to Indigo in P2. And last but not least, I think we've got R2Beat here finally. We've got an interview with R2Beat because I think every time you've been on the podium previously, we've missed you for whatever reason. But we've finally got the Italian Belgian on the
Dutchman.
The Italian Dutch on the podium. But fantastic race from yourself. Like I was saying then to the other guys as well who are with you here in the commentary party, then you kept it clean, then no penalties then for yourself, and you got the podium as a result of that as well.
Yeah, that was a gift in the end. I was like aiming for the P5 or 6 with a penalty situation in the end, and then the safety car came, and then I was okay. That's lucky without all the penalties people had, and then just stay out of trouble and just follow the guys. Don't waste any time. Just follow it, bring it to the end, and see where it ends. And it was P3 today, so like someone said in the Discord, it's we had massive luck with a late safety car. But it's also keep it between the lines, the car, and you don't get penalties. So it's also your own skill set that's needed to bring it to that, because it's a hard track.
Yeah, and speaking of your skill set, you had some great battles out there and some very clean battles as well then. So it was fantastic to watch. So definitely go back and watch that on the stream. But no, it was
I will. I always do.
To watch your work as usual. But no, a really well done, a well put together race then from yourself and for the Haas team as well. I'm sure they'll be very happy with you, like I said. But have you got anything to say then to all the drivers that you were battling with? Because I think you had a battle with at least everybody on the grid then at this race. So
probably because
from your point of view.
Yeah, I had lots of fun. It was today. It was very respectful, the battles, and sometimes you have some wheel banging, but that happens. But the most battles were very clean, and it are very difficult corners over here to keep it clean because they're all high speed and a little bit of wheel banging can lead to a spin. So I think I had lots of fun today. I went out of sync a bit, but in the end, it was Stressful.
Another podium then for yourself. Then congratulations then to R2 beating P34 Team Haas. And so well done. That is it for Qatar then for the 100% league.
Also,
Of
can I
course,
say
we'll be we'll be back in on Sunday then for gold here in Qatar as well. Then for silver on Monday and for bronze on Tuesday. And in a week's time we're going to be where are we going to be in? I think we're going to be in China then for the 100% league. So that'll be next week on the Wednesday. So stay tuned for that then. And we will catch you in a week's time or so, in a few days' time then for gold. So thanks very much for joining us in, and we'll see you very soon.